Chapter 400. Please go to Patreon. Join Discord. It is said that this giant eye city was built by a senior who explored the abyss. He killed a monster that emerged from the bottom of the abyss, took its eyeball, embedded it in the cliff, and hollowed it out to build the city. The giant eye can see into the extreme depths below, effectively monitoring the abyss of Kangwoo for any disturbances. The three slowly descended from the side of the giant eye city, their hearts filled with unspeakable shock. Just an eyeball, and it's this big. It's unimaginable how big the monster that emerged from the depths of the abyss of Kangwoo was. The moment their bodies crossed the 80,000 jong boundary, Xiaoheng felt his strength diminish by a few points. Even at the late stage of qi refinement, one cannot stand here. Only with foundation establishment cultivation can one barely continue descending. The pressure from the abyss was beginning to show. The third layer is not as vast as the forest of spirit language, it's just between 80,000 jong deep to 100,000 jong deep. But the danger level is several times higher. As they continued to descend, from afar, Xiaoheng and the others heard rumbling sounds faintly coming from below. Xiaoheng looked into the distance. In the vast white mist, there seemed to be two huge figures standing in midair, wielding sharp blades, battling each other. The third layer, the puppet gorge. There are two giant stone puppets from ancient times fighting in this area. The two puppets are in a strange state between reality and illusion. If you fly close to check them out, they appear like illusory figures, untouchable. But their influence on the surrounding area is real. The puppets are nearly 20,000 jong tall, and their strength is said to be close to Dao integration. Even from a distance, you could be injured by the aftermath of their battle. Boom, boom. In the hazy white mist, the two stone puppet figures appeared and disappeared. The three were stunned by this fantastic sight. After a long time, Xiaoheng spoke, "All right, let's continue down. It's best to be cautious." During the descent, they had to constantly pay attention to the movements of the two giant stone puppets, avoiding possible energy impacts. The strength of the strange creatures appearing in the thick fog was also becoming increasingly formidable. Therefore, their progress was even slower. It took them 2 whole days to reach the lower boundary of the puppet gorge. Ahead is the fourth layer. The good news is, the Medicine King True Cauldron seems to be not far below. Xiaoheng once again manipulated the small Medicine King Cauldron, sensing for a moment, then let out a sigh of relief. That being said, we can't let our guard down. Zhang Haobo frowned slightly and transmitted his voice. All right, hurry up, I'm getting impatient to see that treasure. Su Xiaomei pursed her lips and entered the fourth layer first. There was no foothold provided for cultivators between the third and fourth layers. Only a bright red line carved into the cliff wall marked the boundary. The fourth layer, the Lost City. Between 100,000 jong to 130,000 jong underground. After sensing his own condition, Xiaoheng frowned slightly. Losing the equivalent of a foundation establishment early-stage cultivator's cultivation out of thin air was already having a noticeable impact on him. He changed his flight direction, no longer going straight down. Instead, he flew diagonally towards the center of the Lost City. Countless building ruins floated in the air, scattered and dilapidated. It was as if a cataclysmic disaster had struck, leaving behind fragments of ruined relics everywhere. No remains, no leftover items. Only the corpses of buildings lay quietly in this space, telling tales of their past encounters. The surrounding area was eerily quiet. The repetitive sight of ruins brought a sense of oppression. Xiaoheng and the others had to cheer themselves up. Because in the Lost City, not only were there unknown creatures made entirely of stone that could jump out and attack at any time, but there were also cultivators with ulterior motives hidden in the shadows, waiting to ambush them. The existence of the town immortality force, along with the chaotic ruins, created the perfect hiding places for them. If they endured until the stone beasts attacked and both sides were injured, then launched their own attack, their chances of success would increase significantly. And below the abyss, the phenomenon of a cultivator's demise was difficult to manifest. After achieving their goal, they could flee and disappear without a trace. The number of cultivators who mysteriously disappeared in this lost city was not small. As Xiaoheng and the others delved deeper into the ruins, heading towards the location of the Medicine King True Cauldron, they encountered 2 waves of cultivator attacks, as expected. But they were just petty thieves. Su Xiaomei and Zhang Haobo had faced the siege of thousands of faceless blood-faced cultivators in the ruins of the Chaoyuan sect, and they had managed to escape unscathed. How could they possibly take these people seriously? They easily killed these people without much effort. After eliminating two groups and showcasing their strength, things finally calmed down. There seems to be a tail following us. Zhang Haobo reminded them. I'll go slaughter them. Su Xiaomei's eyebrows rose, a red light flashed in her eyes, and she was about to turn around and attack. Don't. We're here to find the Medicine King True Cauldron, not to kill people. Xiao Heng quickly stopped her. Drawing attention is not good. Just shake them off. With that, the three suddenly increased their speed. They weaved left and right through the ruins. It took them half a day to finally shake off all the pursuers. Go. Zhang Haobo pinched a hand seal, masking their auras. Then, they headed straight for the Medicine King True Cauldron. After flying for another half a day, they finally reached the sensed location. Huh, Xiao Heng looked around in confusion, unable to see any sign of the Medicine King True Cauldron. This should be the right place. Let's split up and search. Su Xiaomei and Zhang Haobo nodded, then dispersed. Not long after. Nothing. Xiao Heng furrowed his brows deeply. It shouldn't be. Xiao Heng searched again, still to no avail. Su Xiaomei took the small Medicine King Cauldron out of her storage ring, held it in her hand, and sensed again. But there was no change. What do we do? After several attempts without success, the three gathered back together to discuss. Something's strange. I feel like the Medicine King True Cauldron is here, but it's nowhere to be seen. Xiao Heng looked around, his face full of confusion. Maybe it's hidden. Zhang Haobo narrowed his eyes and said suddenly. With that, he activated his spiritual energy and sent a spiritual blade towards the location where he sensed the Medicine King True Cauldron. As if hitting something, the air distorted for a moment. The spiritual blade disappeared without a sound. Then, the fluctuating scene returned to normal. Wow, that's really the case. Su Xiaomei clapped her hands excitedly. She flew towards that abnormal point. However, it was as if it was an illusion. She passed through it unimpeded. Not believing it, Su Xiaomei tried several times, but the result was the same. It's infuriating. What's going on? Xiao Heng was calmer, carefully touching the non-existent barrier with his hand. The small Medicine King Cauldron is the key to entering the Medicine King True Cauldron. Xiao Heng thought thoughtfully. This small Medicine King Cauldron, it can hold people, right? He suddenly asked. If you want to support, please consider joining Patreon. Go to Fantasy Stories 797-20 advanced chapters are available for Patreon's chapter 401. These few small Medicine King Cauldrons have their own space inside, with abundant spiritual energy. If they can be used for growing spiritual plants, it should be safe for people to stay inside for a while. Zhang Haobo immediately understood. You mean we might be able to use the cauldrons to break through this invisible barrier? Xiao Heng nodded. Then let's try it quickly. As soon as Su Xiaomei finished speaking, she took out a small Medicine King Cauldron from her storage ring. Be careful. Xiao Heng hadn't finished speaking when he saw Su Xiaomei transform into a streak of light and enter the small cauldron. Come on in, everyone. Su Xiaomei's voice came from inside the cauldron. Seeing this, Zhang Haobo and Xiao Heng also entered the cauldron. The ancient-looking Medicine King Cauldron spun in the air for a moment before hurtling forward. The moment it hit the transparent barrier, a layer of green light appeared. The small cauldron seemed about to penetrate the barrier successfully. Suddenly, there was a change. The light wall disappeared abruptly, and the small Medicine King Cauldron missed its target. Failing to enter the real Medicine King Cauldron, Xiao Heng and the others had to fly out of the small cauldron again. Strange, why didn't it work? Su Xiaomei was a bit frustrated. Maybe it's because there are too many of us. Xiao Heng speculated. The senior prepared 4 cauldrons for us, so it seems we can't take any shortcuts, Zhang Haobo agreed. Let's try again. Su Xiaomei decisively entered the small cauldron again and directed it towards the barrier. Xiao Heng and Zhang Haobo stayed outside, watching the transparent barrier closely. As expected, when the small Medicine King Cauldron touched the barrier, it neither passed through directly nor was it blocked. Instead, it rippled and disappeared into the barrier as if it melted into water. It works. Xiao Heng and Zhang Haobo exchanged excited glances. Let's go. Not wasting any time, the two of them each took a small cauldron and charged towards the barrier. Meanwhile, in Lanline Prefecture, Li Fan and Wang Fusong had just completed the inspection of the Tianshuan Soul Locking. Hooray! After bidding farewell to Guan Xingshou, they were heading west to Qingyuan Prefecture. It must be said that the remote areas in the south were all struggling similarly. Most of them were at the bottom of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance's rankings. But completing these inspections together saved Li Fan and his team from running around too much. They only needed to go through them one by one. When Xiao Heng and the others entered the real Medicine King cauldron, the images in Formless's killing intent suddenly disappeared. Even though Xiao Heng and the others had carried enhancement arrays with them, no images could be transmitted to him. But Li Fan remained calm. Fortunately, I have another plan. To avoid losing contact immediately like when entering Chaoyuan sect, leaving him clueless about their situation, Li Fan had carved a hidden recording array in addition to the sensing array on the necklace. It would record the surroundings faithfully. When they reconnected, the images could be transmitted to Li Fan through the sensing array. Now, we just need to wait patiently. Li Fan closed his eyes slightly, immersing himself in his divine powers again. In Kangwu Abyss, the real Medicine King, the surroundings changed dramatically. After a moment, a force suddenly expelled Xiao Heng from the small Medicine King cauldron. Caught off guard, Xiao Heng was a bit disheveled. Steadying himself, he saw that Zhang Haobo was in the same state. They were in a completely empty enclosed area. The ceiling and the boundaries of the area were all metal walls glowing faintly with green light. The small Medicine King cauldron that brought them there had disappeared. Xiao Heng, come here. Su Xiaomei's voice came from a short distance ahead, and Xiao Heng and Zhang Haobo hurried to catch up. A huge bronze door stood before them. On the door was an engraving of a round cauldron with 3 legs and 2 ears. It looked exactly like the small cauldrons they had. This should be the legendary real Medicine King cauldron. Xiao Heng thought. I just checked around. Besides this bronze door, there's no other exit, Su Xiaomei said. But this door won't open. Zhang Haobo tried to push the bronze door with all his strength. The door didn't budge. Should we try attacking it? Xiao Heng suggested. Zhang Haobo pondered for a moment and nodded slowly. He stepped back a bit, and a vision of a blood-red sea appeared above him. Blood Sea Cave Heaven, who would have thought someone as good-natured as Zhang Haobo would have such a terrifying nascent soul cave heaven? Xiao Heng took a deep breath. Even though it wasn't the first time he saw this scene, the sight of the boundless blood sea filled with murderous intent still made Xiao Heng's heart race. Blood waves surged, and countless blood-colored swords flew out from the sea. Zhang Haobo pointed, and the swords howled towards the bronze door. Boom, boom, explosions echoed continuously, and the bronze door in the entire space seemed to tremble. After a while, Zhang Haobo retracted his Blood Sea Cave Heaven. Seeing the unchanged bronze door, he frowned and said, "It's useless. The protection here isn't something a nascent soul cultivator can break through." Even the usually hot-tempered Su Xiaomei didn't argue. She stood there, lost in thought. Xiao Heng was also pondering solutions. For a moment, an eerie silence enveloped the surroundings. I know. Suddenly, Su Xiaomei exclaimed. What do you know? Xiao Heng looked at her curiously. The cauldron, Su Xiaomei urged Xiao Heng. You still have a small cauldron left. Look at this door, it must be a mechanism like the barrier outside, recognizing allies and enemies. Back then, disciples of the Medicine King sect could enter by using their sect's cultivation method. We can't do that, but we can trick it with the small Medicine King cauldron like we did outside. Su Xiaomei said seriously. Xiao Heng nodded at first. Then his expression changed dramatically. He quickly backed away, face darkening, and shouted, You're not Su Xiaomei. Who are you? Su Xiaomei was stunned, then her face turned bright red. Xiao Heng, you're courting death. A blazing sun appeared above her head. Moments later, Xiao Heng, bruised and swollen, solemnly apologized to Su Xiaomei. Xiaomei, I'm sorry. Sorry for what? Do you think I'm that dumb? Su Xiaomei snorted and turned away from him. Knowing he was at fault, Xiao Heng felt awkward and didn't know what to say. Talk. Chapter 402. Xiao Heng scratched his head helplessly and looked to Zhang Haobo for help. Zhang Haobo smiled. Little sister isn't foolish at all. In fact, back when Senior Shuo. He paused and corrected himself. Actually, she's very smart. Sometimes she may seem impulsive, but she has already weighed the pros and cons in her mind. Even you were fooled by her. Doesn't that prove how capable little sister is? Su Xiaomei snorted, raising her head high. So it seems our little sister is actually smarter than me. Xiao Heng quickly agreed. After some more sweet talking, they finally earned Su Xiaomei's forgiveness. Alright, I forgive you. Now quickly take out the little cauldron and try it out. Xiao Heng sighed in relief and took out the last remaining medicinal king cauldron. After some thought, he infused it with spiritual power. The small cauldron was activated, emitting a faint azure glow. Xiao Heng brought the small cauldron close to the bronze door. Bathed in its glow, the previously impenetrable door seemed to melt, forming an entrance. "See, I was right," Su Xiaomei said proudly before slipping inside first. Zhang Haobo followed closely behind, and Xiao Heng entered last, making sure to put away the small cauldron. Without the azure glow, the entrance disappeared, and the bronze door returned to normal. Although Su Xiaomei entered first, she did not act rashly. Once the three were together again, they began observing the space behind the door. The narrow, dim passageway extended far beyond what they could see, their spiritual senses also suppressed and unable to probe further. Could there be danger? Xiao Heng asked. Traps, mechanisms, or prohibitions are all possible, Zhang Haobo replied solemnly. We must be cautious. After exchanging glances, they had Su Xiaomei lead, Zhang Haobo guarding the rear, with Xiao Heng in the middle as they cautiously advanced through the passage. They stayed vigilant, not daring to let their guard down. To their surprise, the narrow passage was uneventful, allowing them to pass without any trouble. It doesn't feel right that it was this easy, Su Xiaomei muttered, glancing around as they continued. At the end of the passage, the space opened up into a bright, spacious hall divided into 3 levels. The central area was empty, with many rooms surrounding the 3 levels and corridors leading further in. It seems to be some kind of gathering place, but something must have happened, Xiao Heng observed. The furniture is scattered haphazardly, and plants and decorations are strewn about. This true medicinal king cauldron is amazing. Despite all this time, everything inside remains well preserved, Su Xiaomei remarked, picking up a fallen potted plant in amazement. Look at this flower, it doesn't look thousands of years old at all. Xiao Heng and Zhang Haobo's faces changed slightly at her words. It's strange, Xiao Heng said. If ordinary spiritual plants can stay so well preserved, what about the cultivators inside this cauldron? Su Xiaomei answered, it's been over 20 years since the cauldron returned. If any cultivators of the medicinal king sect were still active, they would have already reclaimed the cauldron instead of leaving it here for us to find. Zhang Haobo nodded, either they're all dead, or they've disappeared. Xiao Heng added, let's just hope there aren't any eerie half-dead entities around. The hall contained nothing of value, and all the doors to the rooms on the 3 levels were sealed tight. Left with no other option, they continued to explore deeper. Despite their unease, the true medicinal king cauldron was surprisingly devoid of traps or prohibitions, unlike other ancient sect ruins. As they moved forward, a gray-white stone door blocked their path. This time, the small medicinal king cauldron trick did not work, and the stone door proved even sturdier than the bronze one. Combined attacks from Su Xiaomei and Zhang Haobo didn't even make it tremble. Frustrated, Su Xiaomei said, are we really going to leave empty-handed after coming this far? The thought crossed all their minds. Xiao Heng, unwilling to give up, said, let's keep looking. Determined, they conducted a thorough search and were fortunate enough to make a discovery. Look, this door doesn't seem to be sealed, Su Xiaomei called out. Xiao Heng and Zhang Haobo hurried over. Zhang Haobo nodded, feeling the slight gap in the door. Indeed, it's different from the others. With hope rekindled, Xiao Heng grew excited. Does that mean we can open it? Let's give it a try. Zhang Haobo and Su Xiaomei combined their efforts again. Under the illumination of their powers, the bronze door groaned as it gradually opened. After a moment, they managed to create a gap big enough to squeeze through. Be careful, they cautioned each other as they entered. Contrary to their expectations, no danger awaited them. Instead, the room's scene left them surprised. It was a single-person dwelling, fully equipped with a bed, table, chairs, and a cabinet. On the floor lay a cultivator, facing the door, seemingly in the act of trying to close it. To their shock, the person was still alive, breathing steadily as if only asleep. What do we do? Should we engage? They communicated through their spiritual senses. While they debated, the cultivator stirred, groaning and slowly waking up. The 3 retreated together, wary of the unknown. The medicinal king sect cultivator, upon waking, looked around in confusion before seemingly recalling something, his eyes regaining focus. He calculated with his fingers and exclaimed, 24 years have passed. Noticing Xiao Heng and the others, he showed a brief surprise before regaining his composure. Greetings, Senior, Xiao Heng and his companions said in unison. Was it you who woke me? He asked. Chapter 403. The Medicine King sect cultivator was astonished to see Xiao Heng and the others address him respectfully as Senior. He waved his hands repeatedly, saying, fellow Taoists, why are you saying such things? Are you trying to make fun of me? We are all nascent soul cultivators, we can address each other as equals. He said to Zhang Haobo and Su Xiaomei. Nascent soul cultivators. Upon closer inspection, Xiaoheng and the others realized that the cultivator who had been asleep for thousands of years was indeed only at the nascent soul stage. However, the feeling he gave off was vastly different from present-day nascent soul cultivators. This was why they hadn't been able to discern it initially. Regardless, an ancient nascent soul cultivator surviving until now was no ordinary being. Xiaoheng and the others didn't let down their guard, pondering how to continue the conversation and extract some information. They heard the other party, like a chatterbox, blurt out a lot of words in one go. My name is Lingu Chong, an inner disciple of the Medicine King sect. When I fell into the Xuanwang realm, I remember the sect master sealed the entire Medicine King cauldron and sent out a distress signal to the outside world. Fellow Taoists, you are able to enter the Medicine King cauldron, so the rescue from the 10 immortal sects has arrived. How are the other fellow disciples doing? Has the sect master awakened? Lingu Chong spoke, excitedly wanting to walk towards the open door. But when he noticed the strange expressions on Xiaoheng and the others, he was startled. Could something have happened? After saying that, he rushed out of the room. Seeing this, Xiaoheng and the others quickly followed. What's going on? Why is the Great Dream Spring and Autumn formation still running? It's just me who has awakened prematurely. Where are the rescue cultivators from the 10 immortal sects? Lingu Chang's voice, filled with doubt and confusion, echoed through the empty Medicine King cauldron. The gate of life and death has fallen. What happened to the sect master? What on earth is going on? His voice was tinged with suppressed panic. After scanning the surroundings, he flew back to Xiaoheng and the others. He stared at them and asked, who are you three, and how did you get into my sect's Medicine King cauldron? Xiaoheng pondered for a moment before saying slowly. This matter is a bit complicated. Fellow Taoist, you might need to prepare yourself mentally. Lingu Chong narrowed his eyes and listened intently. Actually, fellow Taoist, you have been asleep for thousands of years. The Medicine King cauldron broke through and left this realm, that was an event from the ancient times. Before Xiaoheng could finish, Lingu Chong waved his hand to interrupt him. He burst into laughter. Nonsense. Do you think my Medicine King sect's Great Dream Spring and Autumn formation is just for show? You can't even tell how long someone has been sleeping. You're turning 24 years into thousands of years. If you want to deceive someone, at least make it sound plausible. Lingu Chang's expression turned unpleasant. With a light clap, a gourd appeared in his hand. No wonder I felt something strange about you from the first moment I saw you. You are demonic cultivators, trying to deceive me. Die. With Lingu Chang's words, dozens of green rays instantly shot out from the gourd. Sharp as blades, swift as lightning. In an instant, they reached Xiaoheng and the others. Xiaoheng, be careful. Zhang Haobo's face turned pale, realizing that Lingu Chong was going to kill them without hesitation. His blood sea cave heaven suddenly appeared above his head, blood waves rolled, and blood-colored light shot out, colliding head-on with the green rays. Boom, boom. Amidst the violent explosions, Lingu Chong glanced up at the endless blood. See above, a hint of surprise flashing in his eyes. However, he became even more convinced of his judgment. He stood tall and righteous, roaring, "You are indeed demonic cultivators, surrender." Before he could finish, several voices, speaking in unison, came from all directions. You're really annoying. Since just now, you've been saying all sorts of nonsensical things that nobody understands. Are you still not awake from your long sleep? Lingu Chong looked up and saw that, unknowingly, many faceless blood figures had already surrounded him. It's okay, we'll help you wake up. The faceless blood figures tilted their heads, emitting strange laughter. Then they vanished from their positions, simultaneously rushing towards Lingu Chong. Lingu Chang's heart tightened, but he didn't panic. He spat out a small Medicine King cauldron, which hovered above his head. Then, light poured down like a waterfall, forming a protective shield. At the same time, he patted the gourd. The green gourd revolved rapidly in the air, and willow leaf-like rays, sharp as knives, instantly poured out like a torrential rain. They attacked Su Xiaomei and Zhang Haobo. Xiaoheng knew that with his current strength, he couldn't interfere in a battle between nascent soul cultivators. If he forced himself into the fight, he would only be a burden. So, He quietly retreated, wanting to stay away from the battlefield. At that moment, he suddenly smelled an unusual fragrance. Thinking of the other party's title as a disciple of the Medicine King sect, he couldn't help but be startled. Be careful, this fragrance seems strange. He hurriedly sent a voice transmission to warn them, and at the same time, held his breath to resist the fragrance. But this fragrance worked through some unknown means, and Xiao Heng couldn't resist it at all. The fragrance grew stronger and stronger, and Xiao Heng felt a wave of dizziness, even his body became weak. In contrast, Zhang Haobo and Su Xiaomei only paused for a moment before returning to normal. The willow leaf-like green rays from the gourd seemed endless, and the small Medicine King cauldron's protection was impenetrable. Zhang and Su's attacks only caused the cauldron to shake slightly, and they couldn't break through its defense for the time being. Haobo, don't hold back. Su Xiaomei seemed to be enraged. A blazing sun rose, leaping above the blood sea. Countless blood faces, torn to shreds by the green rays from the gourd, instantly recombined into an angry face. The grotesque giant face, illuminated by the blazing sun, suddenly ignited. Emitting strange laughter, it crashed towards Lingu Chong, protected by the small Medicine King cauldron. And the boundless blood sea slowly parted from the center. A rotten giant hand extended from the depths of the sea. It grabbed towards Lingu Chong. Faced with the two-pronged attack, the Medicine King sect disciple's expression turned serious, but he didn't panic. He waved his right hand, and 24 golden needles unfolded one after another. He muttered words under his breath, and the golden needles instantly turned into swords, drawing shining, intersecting lines in the air. Dodging the burning blood face and the rotten giant hand, they headed straight for Zhang Haobo and Su Xiaomei's main bodies. The speed of these golden needles was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, before the two could react, they were pierced through and through. Their bodies were riddled with holes. Strangely, they didn't bleed profusely. Even their attacks didn't seem to be affected. Boom! The small Medicine King cauldron shook violently, and Lingu Chong spat out a mouthful of blood. His face turned pale, but he immediately took out a pill and swallowed it in front of everyone. After a while, Lingu Chang's complexion became rosy again. What kind of evil sorcery? He looked at the two, who could still continuously recover even though their bodies were pierced by the revolving golden needles, and couldn't help but feel a little fear. After hesitating for a moment, a glimmer of pain flashed in his eyes. Lingu Chong took out another round mirror. Holding the mirror in his hand, he shot out a white light, illuminating Su Xiaomei. The round mirror slowly turned into dust, and behind Su Xiaomei, a faint figure slowly emerged. It looked 8 points similar to Su Xiaomei. The illusion let out an angry roar, its hair turning crimson in an instant. Then, it split into several faceless blood figures and attacked Su Xiaomei. It seemed to be able to replicate even Su Xiaomei's innate abilities in cultivation techniques. On Zhang Haobo's side, another rotten hand extended from the blood sea. And from the depths of the sea, a gaze seemed to be peering out at the world. Seeing this, Lingu Chong thought for a moment. He took out a wooden talisman sword to deal with it. The wooden sword flew above the blood sea, summoning a blue thunderbolt from the sky, striking down. The two rotten giant hands blocked it, crackling under the thunder. On the wooden talisman sword, streaks of lightning wrapped around it. The blue lightning was relentless, while the rotten giant hands seemed extremely miserable and defenseless. No matter how badly they were injured, they would quickly recover. The battle reached a stalemate. Lingu Chong, relying on his numerous magical treasures and seemingly endless supply of pills, remained undefeated. Su Xiaomei and Zhang Haobo, relying on the characteristics of their new technique, Cave Heaven Indestructible, Cultivator Immortal, were somewhat flustered. But they weren't in any real danger. For a time, neither side could do anything to the other. Both sides were filled with a sense of awe. What kind of background do these people have? Their cultivation techniques are so bizarre. Although I have a lot of supplies, I can only hold on for 10 days or half a month. If I can't defeat them by then, I'll have to escape to the outside world and ask for reinforcements, Lingu Chong thought to himself. It's so infuriating, they're like Shuafang, relying on their good treasures to bully others. When his treasures are exhausted, I'm going to give him a good beating. Su Xiaomei was furious, her attacks continued, but she couldn't break through the endless barrage of treasures. This Lingu Chong is only an inner disciple. I heard that in ancient sects, above that, there are true disciples and Tao heirs. It's unimaginable how strong they would be, Zhang Haobo thought to himself. While the three were fighting, Xiao Heng, who had been affected by the intoxicating fragrance, gradually recovered. Stop fighting, Lingu Taoist, it's all a misunderstanding. I can swear to heaven, not a single word is false. It has indeed been thousands of years since your time. The world has changed greatly, even the so-called 10 immortal sects you mentioned have long since disappeared into the dust of history. Think about it, if we really wanted to deceive you, why would we choose such a seemingly absurd excuse? Xiao Heng shouted, one sentence after another. Upon hearing that the world had changed greatly and the 10 immortal sects had vanished into nothingness, Lingu Chang's body trembled slightly. Lingu Taoist, Lu sect master's premonition was right. He saved your entire sect. Hearing this, Lingu Chang's offensive finally slowed down. Xiaomei, Haobo, stop as well. Xiao Heng quickly called out. Although she was extremely unhappy, Su Xiaomei still stopped her attack. However, Su and Zhang's cave heaven realms were still not retracted, they remained vigilant, staring at Lingu Chang. Lingu Taoist, what I said is true. Xiao Heng said sincerely. Could it be that the great dream spring and autumn formation in your sect has malfunctioned due to the passage of time? He asked tentatively. As he spoke, he took out a small medicine king cauldron from his storage ring. This small cauldron was dug up from your sect's former ruins. It's with this that we were able to enter here. With your discerning eye, you should be able to tell the truth from falsehood. Xiao Heng spoke frankly. When Lingu Chang saw the small cauldron in Xiao Heng's hand, which exuded an ancient aura, his pupils constricted. He was almost stunned. He could naturally discern that the Medicine King cauldron, with its slight imperfections, was a defective product that they hadn't had time to deal with during the migration. But the traces of time on it were undeniable. So, what was going on? Could it be that the formation's record of time was wrong? Lingu Chang didn't answer. He hurriedly returned to his room. He checked again carefully. There was absolutely no mistake. Since the Great Dream Spring and Autumn formation was activated and the entire sect fell into slumber. It had indeed only been 24 years. Then, are those demonic cultivators outside lying? Lingu Chang's killing intent gradually rose again. At that moment, he suddenly heard the other party say, "Oh, there's a very simple way to verify it. After the great tribulation of heaven and earth, immortal arts cannot be cultivated together. If fellow Taoist doesn't believe me, you can try to cultivate your own techniques. The result will be obvious." Lingu Chang felt absurd when he heard this. It wasn't like the legendary longevity fruit, where there was no reason why techniques couldn't be cultivated together. But hearing Xiao Heng's sincerity, Lingu Chang, with a try-it-and-see attitude, started to circulate the Medicine King sect's true inheritance, the Saving the World and Achieving Longevity Sutra. The next moment, he was completely dumbfounded. After circulating the spiritual energy for several cycles, it was like doing useless work. Not only was there no increase in cultivation, but a voice sounded in his mind. Saving the World and Achieving Longevity Sutra, Tao Integration Technique. Current number of cultivators, 462. What is this? His face turned pale, and beads of sweat began to drip from Lingu Chang's forehead. No, I must be under some kind of illusion. He couldn't believe it at all. Taking several pills, Lingu Chang swallowed them whole. Like he was possessed, he once again began to circulate his techniques. Over and over again, after 100 cycles. Not only did his cultivation not change, but he felt a bit more uneasy in his heart. He even had a strange sensation in his mind. He could clearly sense the locations of the other 461 fellow disciples who were also cultivating the Saving the World and Achieving Longevity Sutra. Kill them all. A thought suddenly arose in his mind. But he immediately reacted and shivered. How could this be? His current experience was beyond his previous understanding. Although he didn't want to admit it, Lingu Chang knew in his heart. What those three people outside said was very likely true. They had merely slept for a while, not even as long as a retreat. But thousands of years had passed in the Xuanwang realm. But, how could this be? In his fear, Lingu Chang fell into endless confusion. Hearing that there was no sound from the room, Xiao Heng and the others walked in. Fellow Taoist, what we said, is it not true? Xiao Heng asked softly. Lingu Chang didn't respond. Actually, we are also very curious about what happened to the Medicine King sect back then. Why don't you tell us in detail, what happened after Lu sect master used the cauldron as a vessel and broke through to the void? Perhaps by pooling our knowledge, we can figure out the reason for all this. Xiao Heng continued to persuade. After a long silence, Ling Guchong said in a confused voice, "Actually, I'm not quite sure what happened either. It's like I had a dream." At that time, Lu Sect Master, with his great divine powers, broke through the shackles of the Xuanwang realm, controlling the Medicine King Cauldron and sailing towards the depths of the void. The original plan was to find the rumored other cultivation realms, but Ling Guchong paused, as if recalling the scene from back then. Not long after, alarms sounded from various parts of the cauldron. It said that we were being drawn by an unknown force, and the direction of travel was out of control. We were told to return to our respective rooms, prepare to enter the Great Dream Spring and Autumn formation and fall asleep. Later, the Medicine King Cauldron shook more and more violently. Even the activation of the Great Dream Spring and Autumn formation was affected and failed. Then, Ling Guchong narrowed his eyes. The sect master sent a voice transmission, saying that the plan to break through the realm had failed and we had to return to the Xuanwang realm. The Medicine King Cauldron was severely damaged and could no longer be controlled. In order to preserve ourselves, we used all the remaining power to protect ourselves. We let the Medicine King Cauldron fall freely back to the Xuanwang realm. After that, the important functions of the cauldron were shut down one after another, and the fellow disciples were forced to fall into slumber. I was in the alchemy room refining pills at the time. When I got back to my room, the door hadn't been fully closed yet. The Medicine King Cauldron was shaking even more violently. Amidst the intense tremors, I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I saw you, Ling Guchong said slowly. Xiao Heng and Zhang Haobo exchanged glances, bewildered by this strange situation. Su Xiaomei, however, spoke up, "No, according to your story, you were just outside the Xuanwang realm for a short time and were forced to return." Ling Guchong nodded, "That's right. You entered slumber after you were about to fall back into the Xuanwang realm." Su Xiaomei asked again. "Yes." Ling Guchong confirmed. "Yes, yes." Su Xiaomei's voice suddenly grew louder. "In our view, the Medicine King Cauldron has been outside the Xuanwang realm for thousands of years. It only returned here recently. At that time, all the cultivators in the world could see the Medicine King Cauldron falling from the sky as a fireball. That should have been 24 years ago." Having said that, Su Xiaomei froze. Chapter 404. Chapter 404. So, counting from the moment you returned to the Xuanwang realm from your Medicine King sect, the time is right. 24 years. Xiao Heng immediately realized it. But Taoist Lingu clearly said that the Medicine King Cauldron only spent a short time outside the realm before returning. How could such a short time have passed thousands of years here? Zhang Haobo frowned deeply. 1,000-fold difference in the flow of time. Is that really possible? No one present could answer this question, and they all fell silent. Perhaps there is a way to figure out what happened back then. After a moment, Ling Guchong, as if remembering something, suddenly said. When it fell towards the Xuanwang realm, the Medicine King Cauldron exhausted all its energy and eventually fell into silence. But you just said that you were able to enter here through the sensing of the little Medicine King Cauldron. He looked at Xiao Heng. Normally, the connection between Medicine King Cauldrons is one way. That is, only the holder of the true Medicine King Cauldron can sense the location of the other little Medicine King Cauldrons. Holding the little Medicine King Cauldron, but being able to sense the location of the true cauldron. This often only happens when the sect master summons nearby sect cultivators. This means that either the sect master has also awakened, or, after all these years, the Medicine King Cauldron has recovered its energy and started to execute its orders automatically, seeking help from the outside world. In any case, we must go inside the open black lens bracket life and death gate close black lens bracket to check on the sect master's situation. Ling Guchong said in a deep voice. Life and death gate, is it the gray stone gate at the end of the corridor? We tried, but we couldn't open it. Su Xiaomei replied. Of course, the life and death gate falls, separating life and death. Even Dao integration cultivators can't shake it even a little. If you could destroy it, that would be a big problem. Ling Guchong said nonchalantly. You have a way, Su Xiaomei said, a little unconvinced. HMPH. Ling Guchong snorted coldly without speaking. He flew towards the depths of the passage. Su Xiaomei, the three of them exchanged glances and followed closely behind. Before long, they arrived in front of the gray stone gate. They saw that Ling Guchong had already sat down cross-legged, with the little Medicine King Cauldron appearing above his head, releasing a protective light shield. And the surrounding ground was also shimmering with golden light, with many symbols engraved on it. He then took out a talisman and stuck it on his forehead. 24 golden needles circled around him. 4 jade plaques were placed in front and behind him. After taking these defensive measures, Lingu Chong politely said to Xiao Heng and the others, "Please, Taoist friends, provide me with protection. I don't know what you are showing off for." Su Xiaomei mumbled. Lingu Chong didn't care, his eyes closed. Then, an infant image that looked 8 points similar to Lingu Chong himself suddenly emerged from his body. "Greetings to all Taoist friends." The infant politely bowed to Xiao Heng and the others, looking extremely cute. "This is nascent soul." Xiao Heng and the others were shocked. Today's cultivators have long abandoned the practice of breaking the pill to form a nascent soul. Instead, they directly plunder various subworlds and form Dharma to replace the nascent soul. Seeing this legendary existence at this time, they were surprised but also a little curious. After Lingu Chang's nascent soul emerged, he didn't immediately fly out of the protective barrier he had set up. Instead, he took out a set of small, green wood armor and put it on. After swallowing several pills, he finally turned into a stream of light and flew towards the gray stone gate. When he was about to collide with the life and death gate, green light suddenly surged from his nascent soul. The stone gate was illuminated by the light, as if it was also stained, becoming somewhat vibrant. Lingu Chong seized the opportunity and plunged into the green area of the stone gate. After he disappeared, the stone gate returned to normal. Nascent soul emerging, it's truly amazing. Su Xiaomei patted the stone gate, making a thumping sound. She was still unable to enter, and she was a little regretful. She turned her head and looked at Lingu Chang's physical body, which was protected by numerous treasures in the center. Her eyes twirled. This guy has so many treasures. You said, he has so many treasures on him alone. Inside this Medicine King cauldron, there are so many sleeping cultivators. How much will their treasures be? Not to mention the numerous secret treasures of the Medicine King sect. Su Xiaomei transmitted her voice. Senior Skull was right, it's truly a great opportunity. Zhang Haobo agreed. It's a pity that our strength is not enough, otherwise. Xiao Heng didn't respond. He stared at the gray life and death gate, not knowing what he was thinking. Time slowly passed in the waiting. 1 day, 2 days. Lingu Chong, who had entered the gate, seemed to have disappeared, completely out of contact. Could something have happened to him? Xiao Heng and the others couldn't help but feel a little worried. Until 5 days later, the life and death gate suddenly opened. The nascent soul returned. After a moment, Lingu Chang's body swayed slightly as he slowly stood up, his face filled with sadness. Taoist Lingu, what happened? Zhang Haobo asked. Follow me. Lingu Chong put away his protection and entered the stone gate. The 3 of them thought for a moment, increased their vigilance, and followed in. It was as if they had suddenly arrived in the endless void, with countless stars twinkling in the background in the distance. The sect master, 1,000 years ago, in order to protect us, has already ascended. At this time, Lingu Chang's voice came, filled with sorrow. This is the scene recorded by the Medicine King cauldron back then. The scene around Xiao Heng and the others quickly moved from stillness. Countless streams of light were stretched out, forming strange curves. And below, a huge, hazy ball of light was moving away from them. A sigh sounded. Xuanwang Realm, another old voice appeared. Sect Master, you don't need to feel guilty, a great calamity is about to come, we have no fault in escaping to seek a glimmer of hope. Even so, the Xuanwang Realm is after all our homeland. The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. Our Medicine King sect is nothing more than a small sect, we can't even take care of ourselves, how can we still care about others? Dealing with the calamity and saving the Xuanwang Realm is still left to the 10 immortal sects. The old voice clearly had dissatisfaction with the 10 immortal sects. Old Huang, forget it, let's not talk about this. Lu Ruchun paused, but then brought up another matter. Speaking of which, the 10 immortal sects, attitude this time is really a little strange. According to their usual way of doing things, hearing that we are going to flee as a whole sect, they would definitely come out to reprimand us. But I don't know why, this time they didn't stop us at all. Old Huang said nonchalantly, when disaster strikes, everyone flies for themselves. There are more than just our Medicine King sect who are fleeing. Maybe there are too many, they can't manage them all. Lu Ruchun remained silent. After a moment, Old Huang said excitedly again, but outsiders will never think that we The Medicine King sect, have a open black lens bracket Dalmark close black lens bracket of another cultivation realm. Relying on the Dalmark's guidance, we can cross the endless void and go to a new world. Chapter 405. Back then, our ancestor, with a selfless act, left behind a path for us. Lu Ruchen's voice suddenly became filled with astonishment. What is it? Huang Lao couldn't help but ask. Strange, why has the trajectory of the Medicine King cauldron deviated? Lu Ruchen's voice was filled with confusion. Could it be that the Dalmarker's sensing is malfunctioning? Moments later, the Medicine King cauldron is functioning normally. Then what exactly? Before Lu Ruchen could find an answer, Huang Lao's panicked voice came through. Sect Master, something doesn't feel right. Why does it feel like we're not moving forward, but upward? The surrounding scenery abruptly shifted. Their perspective continuously narrowed. Xiao Heng and the others saw that shortly after leaving the Xuanwang realm, the Medicine King cauldron, which had been flying straight ahead, inexplicably changed its course. As if something above was attracting it. The Medicine King cauldron traced a curve in the dark void. Helplessly, it slowly drifted upwards. Its speed grew increasingly faster. There wasn't a single star in sight, only endless darkness. Yet, at that moment, it felt like a ferocious beast, opening its maw, waiting for its prey to arrive. Lu Ruchen's heart turned ice cold. Gazing at the luminous cloud below, representing the Xuanwang realm, which was growing smaller and smaller, he felt as if he saw a mocking gaze coming from it. In that instant, Lu Ruchen understood everything. Why did the 10 immortal sects know they were trying to escape, yet didn't stop them? Because they already knew, there was no way to escape. 10 immortal sects, Lu Ruchen gritted his teeth. The Medicine King cauldron's speed had already surpassed its limit, causing it to violently shake. Sect Master, creaking sounds echoed from all directions. Huang Lao's voice was filled with panic. Just a few breaths later. Sect Master, you, first, Huang Lao let out an incredulous scream. Disciples of the Medicine King sect, listen to my orders. Following that, Lu Ruchen began issuing commands to the disciples within the Medicine King cauldron. He ordered them to quickly return to their respective chambers. Don't blame me, Lu Ruchen's soft murmur reverberated through the space. With just my strength, it's impossible to escape from there. His voice revealed a hint of despair. But, for the Medicine King sect, I must do this. In an instant, a vast expanse of azure green light enveloped the entire Medicine King cauldron. 10 immortal sects! ! Quote. Amidst his furious roar filled with resentment. The azure light intensified. The Medicine King cauldron's speed abruptly slowed down. However, it was still unable to change its downward trajectory. But slowly, from within the Medicine King cauldron, wisps of the same azure green light began to emanate. The azure light became increasingly dazzling. The Medicine King cauldron slowed down even further. Slower and slower. Finally, it came to a standstill amidst the endless darkness. In that instant, a large amount of green light was extracted. Only then did the Medicine King cauldron begin to change its direction. It avoided being swallowed and started plummeting downwards. During its escape, the azure light flickered continuously, as if it was being rapidly consumed. Eventually, when the Medicine King cauldron fell back into the Xuanwang realm, the green light had become almost invisible. The scene abruptly ended. This is what happened back then, Ling Guchong said with sorrow. Xiao Heng and the others were still in shock from the scene they had just witnessed, unable to react. After a long time, what was that? Su Xiaomei, who was never afraid of anything, asked with fear. Although she didn't say it directly, everyone present understood what she was referring to. That is the Immortal Ruins. A long, long time ago, when the path to ascension was still open, that was where the Celestial Realm's passage was located, Ling Guchong answered her question. Before our sect master passed away, he understood many things, Ling Guchong said. The celestial path is hidden, the connection with other cultivation realms is severed. All of this is because a terrifying existence appeared above the Xuanwang realm. It devours everything, even distorting time and space. Just by circling around it, 1,000 years have passed in the outside world. Ling Gucheng's voice was low, as he spoke slowly. And the 10 immortal sects back then, knowing this truth, watched as we were sent to our deaths, without offering any warning. Ling Guchong clenched his fists, his nails digging into his flesh. Immortal Ruins, Xiao Heng and the others muttered, their hearts filled with indescribable terror. Will this world be completely sucked up? Su Xiaomei opened her mouth, asking with confusion. Ling Guchong let out a cold laugh. Back then, the 10 immortal sects were still engaged in open and covert struggles, constantly conflicting. But suddenly, from a certain point, they became incredibly united, speaking with one voice. I suppose the Xuanwang realm being able to survive until now is thanks to their efforts back then. Xiao Heng and the others felt slightly relieved upon hearing this. However, the lingering sense of unease in their hearts couldn't be easily dispelled. Just as Xiao Heng and the others finally became aware of the Xuanwang realm's true predicament, Li Fan, who was still oblivious to all this, had completed the final inspection of the soul-locking array in the last province. The Tianquan soul-locking array was about to completely cover the entire realm, and all the array masters who had participated in its construction received invitations from the 10,000 Immortal Alliance headquarters. Go to Tianling province to witness the soul-locking array's debut. What does this mean? Li Fan looked at the black and gold jade-like invitation in his hand and asked Wang Fusong. Perhaps it has something to do with the void in Tianling province, Wang Fusong whispered. Anyway, it's almost certain that the Five Elders Association will start another war. So, the Alliance decided to take advantage of the soul-locking array's debut and give them a severe lesson. Li Fan nodded slowly upon hearing this. Looking at the jade token, for some reason, a sense of unease suddenly welled up in his heart. Let's go, many people have already arrived. We can't miss such a grand event. Wang Fusong piloted the dust-crossing boat towards Yanghua Immortal City. Then, they used the teleportation array to continuously travel towards Tianling province. On the way, Li Fan suddenly stopped. Senior Wangfu, you go ahead. I have something to do and need to go to the 10,000 Immortal Alliance headquarters first. After a moment, Li Fan said to Wang Fusong. He also gave him a, you know what I mean, look. 10,000 Immortal Alliance headquarters. Wang Fusong was surprised, but quickly understood. Then congratulations to you, my friend. Looking at Li Fan with envy, Wang Fusong shook his head silently and left first. After Wang Fusong left, Li Fan's expression remained unchanged. But in his heart, he was recalling the message that Lu Shuijing had just sent him. Danger. It seems my premonition was right, there is indeed something wrong with Tianling province. Li Fan secretly made plans. Chapter 406. Lu Shuijing was not aware of the specific dangers that awaited her in Tianling province. It was only during her conversation with her mother, Lu Shichan, that she noticed a subtle sense of unease in her mother's cold demeanor when mentioning matters related to Tianling province. In the past, whenever Lu Chief displayed such an expression, it signified an impending storm of bloodshed. Could it be that the 10,000 Immortals Alliance is about to get rid of us after we've served our purpose? Li Fan felt a tinge of doubt in his heart. If this were indeed the case, it seemed rather too hasty. After the completion of the locking spirit array, wouldn't they even bother with a pretense of rewarding us? Or were there hidden motives at play? Regardless, Tianling province is not a place I can go to. Based on the power I witnessed in the Five Elements Great Subworld, the might of the locking spirit array must surpass even Dao integration. With the situation unclear, it would be unwise to risk my life. Besides, to understand what's happening in Tianling province, there's no need for me to go myself. Li Fan's eyes flickered with a subtle gleam as he settled down in the transmission plaza. This was the mandatory transit point for anyone traveling to Tianling province. Most of the invited array masters would pass through here. Sure enough, not long after, Li Fan spotted a suitable target from afar. Luan, a golden core array master and one of the participants in the locking spirit array competition. Unaware of Li Fan's hidden presence, Luan hurriedly activated the transmission array, intending to reach his destination. Before he could leave, formless killing intent had already silently locked onto him. Li Fan trailed behind, maintaining the maximum distance required for formless killing intent to remain active. After half a day, Luan arrived at Tianling province. From afar, he saw a colossal dust-crossing boat suspended in the sky. Cultivators were constantly flying towards it from all directions. Luan's face lit up with excitement as he flew forward, soon reaching the edge of the dust-crossing boat. Holding a black gold invitation, a beam of light swept across his body. Luan was granted access through the protective barrier and landed on the dust-crossing boat. Le Daoist. As soon as he landed, acquaintances greeted him warmly. Luan responded in kind. The boat was already bustling with cultivators, mostly familiar faces. Besides the contestants of the array competition, many first-rate construction and support personnel who had made significant contributions to the widespread use of the Tianquan locking spirit array were also invited aboard the dust-crossing boat. They were gathered together, creating a lively atmosphere. The Tianquan locking spirit array is complete. Facing the Five Elders Association's aggressive assault, it will finally reveal its true power. Lu Chief's invitation to witness this spectacle is truly a blessing for us. Yes, finally able to witness the divine power of the locking spirit array, all my years of hardship have been worth it. I wonder if the Five Elders Association will be intimidated and simply back down. If they don't show up, all our preparations will be in vain. Haha, rest assured, knowing the Five Elders Association, they will undoubtedly think we are bluffing as usual. Little do they know. Taoist, be careful, don't say too much, Amidst the joyful atmosphere, the group waited for the arrival of the Five Elders Association cultivators. It was only after 10 days that their target finally appeared. Without warning, a beam of white light descended from the heavens, illuminating a spot near the border of Tianling province. It locked onto a hidden cultivator who was moving rapidly. Is this the Tianquan locking spirit array of your 10,000 Immortals Alliance? It doesn't seem that impressive. It's just revealing my location. What can you do about it? Instead of panicking, the cultivator not only remained unperturbed, but also stopped in his tracks, mocking the dust-crossing boat in the sky. For a moment, the people on the dust-crossing boat were filled with righteous indignation. A mere nascent soul cultivator dares to act so audacious. This person is taking the lead, he can't be as simple as he appears. Why isn't the Alliance reacting? What are they waiting for? The Five Elders Association cultivator saw that the 10,000 Immortals Alliance was not responding to his provocation. He snorted in disdain. In full view of everyone, he tossed an apricot yellow array flag into the air. Muttering under his breath, 108 monstrous creatures, each with a unique appearance, flew out of the flag. The creatures' bodies seemed to be composed of blue starlight, their ferocious faces bearing a hint of divinity. That is, the small star-shifting array. The cultivators on the dust-crossing boat, all skilled in array formations, instantly recognized the array the Five Elders Association cultivator was using. They gasped in unison. The 108 star beasts circled around each other in a Jodian formation, spewing out brilliant starlight that converged towards the center. At the point where the 108 beams of light collided, a starry gate slowly opened. Thousands of cultivators instantly poured out of the gate. They were all clad in the Five Elders Association's battle robes, and the beams of light that descended from their heads confirmed their identities. How could they let them open the transmission gate? What's going on? What is our side doing? Everyone, be at ease. This must be a strategy to lure them in. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance's inaction in the face of the Five Elders Association's invasion caused an uproar among the cultivators on the dust-crossing boat. However, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance did not disappoint them. Soon, the locking spirit array in the sky began to act. Among the thousands of beams of light that were locking onto the Five Elders Association cultivators, streaks of golden light suddenly appeared. The golden light was extremely thin. It flowed down from the sky along the beams, like sharp flying swords, ready to behead the Five Elders Association cultivators. However, the Five Elders Association cultivators remained calm. Just as the golden light was about to reach their heads, it abruptly stopped, suspended in midair. The golden light flared up, emitting a disgruntled hum as it struggled to break free from its constraints. But on the battlefield, it was as if an invisible giant hand was holding it down, preventing it from moving. The golden light was rendered immobile. The dust-crossing boat fell silent in an instant. The young array masters, witnessing the locking spirit array's attack being effortlessly blocked, all wore expressions of disbelief. Some cultivators, as if realizing something, suddenly turned pale, their eyes darting around in panic. They seemed ready to flee the scene. At that moment, a deep voice echoed across the battlefield. "Heavenly Venerate, please retreat. According to our agreement, you should not be here." As the words rang out, Jihong Dao's figure gradually emerged, standing before the Five Elders Association cultivators. Oh, a silver bell-like laughter echoed across the heavens. Is there anywhere in this world I cannot go? Only the voice could be heard, not the speaker. But all the 10,000 Immortals Alliance cultivators on the scene were filled with fear. Longevity, Heavenly Venerate. The thousands of Five Elders Association cultivators, however, showed no change in expression. It was as if they had known all along that the longevity Venerate would appear. They all wore the same expression, cold and emotionless, as they gazed ahead. Li Fan, who was observing this scene from afar using the perspective of the heavens, was shaken to his core. That voice is Zhao Shiji, Chapter 407. Li Fan, who had once had a close encounter with Zhao Shiji in forbidden literature, instantly recognized her voice. Open black lens bracket 1 heart heavenly Venerate close black lens bracket, is that her name? Or does it represent her defiance of the laws of heaven and earth? Why would she show herself? Several thoughts flashed through Li Fan's mind in a split second. Just as Li Fan was filled with uncertainty, the One Heart Heavenly Venerate's voice rang out again. The agreement was made with the law-bestowing Heavenly Venerate. Now I am here, where is the law-bestowing Heavenly Venerate? The voice was clear and spread throughout the heavens and earth. All the cultivators in the Tianling province looked at each other in astonishment. Most of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance members knew that the law-bestowing Heavenly Venerate had long since transcended the world, no longer interfering with worldly affairs. But everyone assumed that the law-bestowing Heavenly Venerate was simply living a carefree life, too lazy to bother with these mundane matters. That was why he hadn't appeared for so many years. And he was undoubtedly still alive in the world. But what did the One Heart Heavenly Venerate mean by her words today? Where is the law-bestowing Heavenly Venerate? A terrifying thought arose in the minds of everyone present. No, it can't be. Everyone's eyes were filled with suppressed fear. Where is the law-bestowing Heavenly Venerate? The One Heart Heavenly Venerate asked again. Her voice was like thunder, echoing through the Tianling province. It had the tendency to cross the white mist barrier and spread to other provinces. In the sky, strands of green light appeared, like a giant net. They blocked the sound. The One Heart Heavenly Venerate's voice gradually faded. Open black lens bracket 1 heart Heavenly Venerate close black lens bracket, please leave. Ji Hongdao said again. His face was as cold as ice, devoid of any expression. If I don't leave, what will you do? Zhao Shiji's voice, laced with amusement, rang out. The thousands of Five Elders Association cultivators below all took a step forward in unison. Ji Hongdao took a deep breath. After the achieving Heavenly Venerate, she should no longer participate in the disputes of the mundane world. This is the agreement between the law-bestowing Heavenly Venerate and the Five Elders Association Heavenly Venerates of that time. Are you truly going to break it now? Boom! The thousands of Five Elders Association cultivators, who had formed a battle formation, took another step forward in unison. It showed the One Heart Heavenly Venerate's determination. Very well, if that's the case. A flicker of hesitation crossed Ji Hongdao's eyes. But he quickly suppressed it. His eyes now reflected an icy coldness and unwavering determination. Ji Hongdao looked up at the sky, bowing and bending his body. One after another, green lines appeared in the sky. They rapidly spread from the center to the surroundings, forming a giant net that enveloped the entire Tianling province in an instant. Ji Hongdao stood up and bowed again. The green light became increasingly brighter. It dyed the entire sky a strange shade of green. Ji Hongdao then bowed 3 times. A moment later, countless, densely packed green threads descended from the giant net. They rushed towards their targets on the ground. In an instant, the entire Tianling province seemed to have been trapped in a terrifying green spider web. Wait, how is this possible? The cultivators on the dust-crossing boat, witnessing the Tianshuan locking spirit formation unleash its power, finally saw the formation's true might. But none of them showed the excitement they should have. Instead, they were filled with immense terror. Even more so than when they had just heard about the open black lens bracket 1 heart Heavenly Venerate close black lens bracket coming to the battlefield. Because the target of the Tianshuan locking spirit formation was not the longevity Venerate who stood before the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Nor was it the thousands of Five Elders Association cultivators who had come to invade. It was all the 10,000 Immortals Alliance cultivators present in the Tianling province. Every green thread that fell meant the death of a cultivator. High in the heavens, a distorted apparition formed an abstract painting of chaotic and mottled colors. Return, 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 return. Path, path, path. At. Countless sounds converged and intertwined. It was impossible to discern their meaning. They were just a multitude of strange sounds echoing endlessly, forming a grand, chaotic, and distorted celebratory symphony. Whether it was the young formation masters on the dust-crossing boat, or Li Fan, who was several provinces away, they were all in a state of stupor at this moment. Because this scene was beyond their comprehension. The Tianshuan Locking Spirit Formation, which was supposed to be used to intimidate the Five Elders Association, was now slaughtering the 10,000 Immortals Alliance cultivators indiscriminately. Looking at the dense green lines in the sky and earth of the Tianling province, everyone had no doubt that all the cultivators in this province below the Dao integration stage had perished in the attack of the Locking Spirit Formation. Why? Li Fan's heart was filled with endless confusion. He had thought that the 10,000 Immortals Alliance would kill the formation masters who had built the Locking Spirit Formation to ensure that its structure wouldn't be leaked. But he hadn't expected that the target of the Locking Spirit Formation would be all the cultivators in the Tianling province. It makes no sense at all. Has the 10,000 Immortals Alliance gone mad? He analyzed one possibility after another in his mind, but he couldn't find any motive for the 10,000 Immortals Alliance to do this. Just as he was racking his brains, trying to understand, the world suddenly began to shake. The Tianling province and the Tianpan province where he was currently, both were shaking. His heart pounded rapidly, as if he had encountered a fatal threat. Li Fan abruptly stood up, his face grave as he looked towards the heavens. This is... A meaningless roar echoed faintly from the sky. The entire world trembled slightly. At this moment, all the living beings in the Xuanwang realm, all instinctively raised their heads, gazing at the sky. Great fear was born in their hearts. The feeling of doomsday approaching, with nowhere to escape, surged through all living beings. The trembling lasted for a long time before finally stopping. All living beings showed expressions of relief, as if they had survived a catastrophe. But they were clueless about what had happened. The Tianling province. Before the survivors had recovered. Open black lens bracket 1 heart heavenly venerate close black lens bracket, please leave. Ji Hongdao said again. After a long silence. Ha ha ha, ha ha, interesting. Whose idea was this? Staying in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance is truly a waste of your talents. Why don't you join me instead? Zhao Shiji chuckled, revealing her figure, asking with amusement. She looked exactly like the image Li Fan had seen in the Forbidden Book. And she was exactly as depicted in the legends. She wore a white robe, her figure alluring. Ji Hongdao closed his eyes, not daring to look directly at her. Please leave, heavenly venerate. Cold sweat streamed down his forehead, but he remained resolute. Zhao Shiji stared at him for a moment. Then she looked up at the sky. You have some nerve. Before her voice had faded, she had vanished. The instant the one heart heavenly venerate disappeared, the thousands of golden rays of light that had been suspended in the air, blocked by her, fell to the ground. They killed all the Five Elders Association cultivators who had come to invade. Strangely, these cultivators showed no fear in the face of death. And there were no signs of cultivators falling from the heavens. Open black lens bracket 1 heart heavenly venerate close black lens bracket. Ji Hongdao looked in the direction where Zhao Shiji had left, muttering for a moment. Then he turned around, his expressionless face facing the formation masters on the dust-crossing boat. Let's go. The feast is over. It's time to have a good talk with you. Chapter 408. This world, there's something wrong. In the Tianling province, after Ji Hongdao departed with the massive dust-crossing boat, Li Fan lost the sensation of the formless killing intent. It didn't matter, as his initial goal had been achieved. He successfully learned of everything that had happened in the Tianling province. As he recalled the events he had witnessed, many questions arose in his mind. The disappearance of the heavenly venerate and the probing action of the one heart venerate were still within the realm of logic. However, what happened afterward was completely baffling. Ji Hongdao activated the locking spirit array, instantly killing all cultivators in the province. This was a declaration. It demonstrates that the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, under the coverage of the Locking Spirit Array, possesses the power to annihilate the vast majority of cultivators in an instant. This serves as a threat, demanding that Zhao Shiji retreat. And as the Longevity Venerate, she actually just left. Would a Longevity Realm being care so much about the lives of ants? After transcendence, shouldn't it be, your life or death is none of my concern? Suddenly, Li Fan recalled his enlightenment from years ago. The number of cultivators cannot be too few. It seems that ensuring the existence of a certain number of cultivators is even more important to the Longevity Venerate than I imagined. But why? What bothered him even more was the strange phenomenon that occurred in the Xuanwang realm after the cultivators of the Tianling province died instantly. It was as if the end of the world was approaching, with the entire world trembling. All living beings in the world felt a nameless fear. Even Li Fan, who possessed the open black lens bracket truth close black lens bracket and could rewind time at any moment, was no exception. The contradiction between the Xuanwang realm and cultivators was so sharp that it seemed impossible to reconcile. Logically speaking, the more cultivators died, the better it should be for the world. Now it seemed that this was not the case at all. What was the reason for this? He pondered repeatedly, but due to the lack of clues, Li Fan couldn't find a reasonable answer at the moment. He thought back to the open black lens bracket one heart venerate close black lens bracket he had seen. This was the first time he had witnessed the existence of a longevity realm strongman with his own eyes. She effortlessly blocked the attack of the spirit locking array. Ji Hongdao, a Dao integration powerhouse, didn't even dare to look at her directly. Indeed, she was unfathomably strong. One heart should be similar to open black lens bracket transmission close black lens bracket, representing the Dao that Zhao Shiji has reversed. What is one heart? Li Fan frowned. One heart implies focused attention, unity of hearts. Focused attention is clearly not right. Unity of hearts. Li Fan's eyes narrowed slightly. He remembered Zhao Shiji's strange words. Staying in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance is a waste of your talent. Why not join me? Join me. Li Fan seemed to understand something. He recalled the thousands of Five Elders Association cultivators who had come to attack. From beginning to end, they all had the same expression. There was no command, yet their actions were incredibly consistent. Even in the face of death, they didn't show any fear. After they all perished, there were no corresponding celestial phenomena in the sky. United, as one, Li Fan had a sudden realization. All living beings are born different. In the world, they are all independent individuals. This is the Tao of heaven. If this Tao is reversed, you are within me, and I am within you. In essence, we are one. Li Fan suddenly remembered hearing about things like open black lens bracket consciousness collective close black lens bracket and open black lens bracket unity close black lens bracket in his previous life. A vast population, seemingly with numerous individual lives. But in essence, they are a collective that shares all perceptions. It seems that the Tao that Zhao Shiji cultivates is likely this. Assimilating all living beings in the world. Li Fan immediately felt something was wrong. Zhao Shiji had already achieved longevity venerate, signifying that she had successfully reversed the Tao of heaven. But clearly, the vast majority of cultivators in the Xuanwang realm had not been assimilated by her. Does this mean that the Tao reversed by the one heart venerate is only within a specific region? Li Fan secretly guessed, as what Ji Hongdao said about completing the open black lens bracket theorem close black lens bracket. Referring to a necessary step in achieving longevity venerate. One glimpse into the Tianling province, and Li Fan once again glimpsed the highest secrets of this world. But to truly understand the meaning behind it, he needed more information. Setting it aside for now, Li Fan returned to the immortal city of the Heavenly Judgment Province, within the Tianshuan Mirror. He submitted an application to visit the open black lens bracket Museum of Divine Treasures close black lens bracket at the headquarters of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, free of charge. This was one of the benefits of his current level 30 derivation authority. Soon, his application was approved, allowing him to choose the time of his visit within a year. Li Fan immediately chose to visit right away. After receiving the message that a open black lens bracket guide close black lens bracket would be coming to pick him up shortly and that he should wait patiently in the Heavenly Judgment City, Li Fan breathed a sigh of relief. He wasn't actually in the mood to visit the various treasures preserved in the Museum of Divine Treasures at the end of his life. Instead, he was looking for a safe place to take refuge. Although Ji Hongdao hadn't been ruthless in the Tianling province and had spared the lives of those young formation masters, after witnessing the slaughter of all cultivators in the province and knowing the secret structure of the spirit locking array, their fate wouldn't be good. And those formation masters who hadn't been present for various reasons would undoubtedly be eliminated one by one. Li Fan could directly rewind time. But he still needed some time to wrap things up in this life. At the very least, he had to wait until Xiao Heng and the others came out of the True King's divine cauldron. For Li Fan at this moment, there was no place safer in the world than the headquarters of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Firstly, the headquarters of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance had its own defense mechanisms, and Ji Hongdao and the others would likely not make a move directly inside. Secondly, it would create a false impression. I'm already at the headquarters of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, practically a sitting duck. Are you afraid of me running away? This would undoubtedly make Ji Hongdao and the others relax their vigilance and eliminate the remaining targets first. Then they would deal with Li Fan. While Li Fan waited for the open black lens bracket guide close black lens bracket. In the True King's Divine Cauldron, within the abyss of roars, Xiaoheng and the others were helping Lingu Chong open one sealed room after another. They took out the corpses inside and buried them. Back then, Lu Rushan, in order to save the True King's Divine Cauldron from falling into the open black lens bracket Immortal Ruins close black lens bracket, had not only sacrificed himself and Elder Huang. He had also used the lives of hundreds of disciples who had fallen into a deep slumber as fuel. This was how he pulled the True King's Divine Cauldron out of the abyss. Looking at the shriveled corpses of his former fellow disciples, Lingu Cheng's face was filled with uncontrollable grief. He took all the valuable items from their bodies. After burning the corpses, Lingu Chong said solemnly, "I will rebuild the True King sect." Xiaoheng and the others exchanged glances and couldn't help but say, "Fellow Taoist Lingu Chong, times have changed." Lingu Chong raised his hand to interrupt him, "I know. Nowadays, the Tao cannot be cultivated together. So for now, those fellow disciples and senior members of the sect who are still asleep and practice the same cultivation method as me, I won't wake them up." Chapter 409, The Boundary of Immortals and the Unity of All Things. As far as I know, apart from our sect's fundamental technique, the Jishi longevity scripture, there were several senior brothers who practiced other techniques back then. If I awaken them in advance, it shouldn't be a problem. Wait until I gather enough techniques. Lingu Chong muttered to himself, but he noticed strange looks from Xiaoheng and the others. He couldn't help but stop and asked, "What's wrong, friend Xiao? Is there something wrong with my plan?" Xiaoheng sighed, "Friend Lingu, I'm afraid the current situation in the cultivation world is not as simple as you imagine." Xiaoheng then explained the rough situation of the two colossal entities, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and the 5 Elders Association, which almost monopolized all techniques in the world. Lingu Cheng's complexion instantly turned extremely pale. How could this be? If these people weren't lying, then the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and the 5 Elders Association were terrifying entities even more formidable than the 10 major sects of the Immortal Tao in the past. Su Xiaomei hurriedly added, "The 10,000 Immortals Alliance is not a group of good people. If they learn about the current situation of your Medicine King sect, they won't spare you for the sake of treasures and techniques." Zhang Haobo also nodded, "The 10,000 Immortals Alliance's control over techniques is truly formidable. Especially the ancient technique you, friend Lingu, are cultivating, it's undoubtedly exceptional. It shouldn't be a problem to reach the Tao integration. With the 10,000 Immortals Alliance's style, they won't let such a true technique remain outside. Once they get wind of it, they will definitely send law protectors to recover it." The three of them vividly described the terror of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance according to their own impressions. Although Lingu Chong didn't fully believe it, he understood the principle that innocent people shouldn't be blamed for the sins of the guilty. Joining the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and handing over the lives of hundreds of sleeping senior brothers to others was something he couldn't do, entrusted by Lian Rushan in his dying moments. After thinking about it, he solemnly bowed to Xiaoheng and the others. "I've been away from the Xuanwang realm for thousands of years, and the changes in the world are unfamiliar to me in many aspects. For the sake of the future well-being of my Medicine King sect, I will trouble you all for assistance." Xiaoheng repeatedly said it was his duty. After dealing with the matters inside the cauldron, Lingu Chong and the 3 others flew out from the Medicine King cauldron. Lingu Chong put away the Medicine King cauldron. Then, they planned to return to Shilan State along the same route. Throughout the journey, everyone flew discreetly. Seeing the magnificent heavenly cities along the way and the numerous cultivators of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance within, Lingu Chong became more convinced of his judgment, becoming more cautious. 10,000 Immortals Alliance Headquarters. Museum of Divine Treasures. Guided by the attendant, Li Fan had already arrived at this magnificent building. At this moment, his steps in the tour slightly paused. The guide looked at him somewhat puzzled. "Is there a place to rest here?" Li Fan said with some apology. A guide in black clothes looked at Li Fan, who was white-haired and looked old, with an understanding expression. Then, he led him to a closed space. Although simple in decoration, it had all the necessary furniture. "You can rest here. If you want to visit again, just contact me through this jade card, marked with the year, Bing Yin." Handing the jade card engraved with the words, Bing Yin, to Li Fan, the guide quietly left. Li Fan took a deep breath, digesting the information transmitted from Xiaoheng and the others. Immortal ruin, his eyes narrowed, extremely attractive, devouring everything. Even capable of distorting time and space. Approaching it, a moment could be equivalent to 1,000 years. What is this? A black hole, or rather, a force very similar to a black hole. Does the mysterious existence above Yuandao province have any connection with the immortal ruin? While Li Fan was organizing the information, he suddenly froze. Wait a moment, the immortal ruin, the Xuanwang realm below that can be attracted and devoured at any time. As well as the anomalies in the Xuanwang realm after the death of cultivators. In an instant, combining the observations from Tianling province, all the clues formed a line. A logically consistent conclusion appeared in Li Fan's mind. Enough to rationally and completely unravel the doubts in Li Fan's mind. To avoid the fate of the entire Xuanwang realm being swallowed by the immortal ruin above, it needs to maintain a certain weight itself. And cultivators are also a crucial part of this weight. When numerous cultivators die, the Xuanwang realm becomes lighter. So, it is slightly attracted by the immortal ruin, approaching it by a small distance. If the number of cultivators in the Xuanwang realm drops to a certain level, the entire Xuanwang realm will irreversibly completely fall into the immortal ruin. At that time, even the longevity immortal, I'm afraid, will not be able to escape the fate of destruction. This is why Jihong Dao's deterrent works. Mutual destruction. This is also why the number of cultivators must not be too small. Li Fan's thoughts quickly turned, and he thought of Zhao Shiji's words and actions. He vaguely felt that this judgment was extremely close to the truth. But then the problem arose. Why do cultivators have weight? It's understandable for the world to have weight. But the physical bodies of cultivators, how? In an instant, it was as if a lightning bolt had split through the mist. Li Fan instantly understood. If it's an ancient technique cultivator, naturally, there is no concept of weight. But for new technique cultivators, they plunder the heavens and seize the earth. Absorb the essence of heaven and earth, imitate the heavenly treasures, observe the laws of heaven and earth, seize the essence of heaven and earth, extract the marrow of heaven and earth. They absorb a part of the world, turning it into their own. It naturally obtains the attribute of weight of the world. For cultivators below the golden core stage, it might not be obvious. When reaching the foundation establishment stage, after swallowing the Dharma, originally belonging to heaven and earth, transforming it into their own domain. This becomes more understandable. Dharma, the weight of the world. Li Fan then thought of more. According to the observations of Lingu Chong from the Medicine King sect, the immortal ruin above the Xuanwang realm should have existed long before the spread of new techniques. At that time, the 10 major sects of the Immortal Tao joined forces to prevent the fate of the Xuanwang realm being swallowed. What exactly did the top cultivators standing at the peak of the cultivation world do back then? Thinking about the current situation of the Xuanwang realm, a bold speculation emerged in Li Fan's mind. When I learned about the new techniques from the 5 spiritual qi sensing method, I had doubts in my heart. Cultivators plundering the heavens and seizing the earth, and yet this world can persist for so long. It's truly incredible. After delving into various secrets of the Xuanwang realm, I also had suspicions. There are too many subworlds and small worlds contained within the Xuanwang realm. From the Great Shu to the edge of the realm, even countless attached worlds, as well as countless subworlds of various shapes. Now it seems that these places may not have originally belonged to the Xuanwang realm, but were captured from the void by the cultivators of the 10 major sects of the Immortal Tao back then, to avoid being swallowed by the immortal ruin. Chapter 410. Ancient cultivators' actions were truly comparable to catching stars and taking the moon. Thinking about the countless subworlds and smaller worlds within the Xuanwang realm, Li Fan couldn't help but sigh in admiration. It was precisely because of the accumulation of the past that the Xuanwang realm had such a rich foundation. This allowed it to endure for thousands of years despite the plundering of cultivators. When cultivators of this world die, they will return their Tao to heaven. This is a self-generated countermeasure that the world has developed in response to the perceived threat. This method of recycling has greatly slowed the rate of weight loss. But Li Fan pondered slightly. The so-called weight was simply Li Fan's way of referring to the Xuanwang realm's ability to resist the attraction of the immortal ruins, given his limited information. From what he could see, the weight of a cultivator after their demise and return of their Tao to heaven was far less than when they were alive. Perhaps it's because the energy that returns to the heavens when subworlds are destroyed is formless. And for heaven to recondense this energy into tangible objects with weight requires a long period of time. When the rate of subworld creation is less than the rate of their destruction, there will be a deficit. This will affect the safety of the Xuanwang realm. Therefore, the number of cultivators must be controlled and maintained in balance. This is one possibility. Another possibility is Li Fan's brow furrowed. When cultivators die, they don't all return their Tao to heaven. A portion of them disappears. It's a bit terrifying to think about, but it's become commonplace in the Xuanwang realm. Li Fan recalled the scene recorded by the Medicine King Cauldron when it broke through the world's barriers. Leaving the protection of the world, the Medicine King Cauldron, attempting to cross the void, was like a moth drawn to a flame, inevitably falling towards the immortal ruins. Immortal ruins. The greatest fear is the fear of the unknown. Why did the ancient immortal realm passage become the devouring entity it is now? Does the former immortal realm still exist? If the immortal realm no longer exists, what caused its destruction? The more he thought about it, the more instinctive fear surged within Li Fan. After a moment, Li Fan took a deep breath and suppressed his myriad thoughts. These were still too distant for him right now. At the very least, he would need to consider these issues after achieving the longevity immortal sage. Putting these thoughts aside, Li Fan pondered his own situation. Although the world I've transmigrated to is on the verge of destruction at all times. But if you think about it, this situation is actually better for me. After all, even the lofty longevity realm cultivators are essentially no different from ordinary beings in the Xuanwang realm, just grasshoppers on the same boat. On this sinking ship of the Xuanwang realm, even the longevity immortal sages have to be cautious in their actions. They can't be completely reckless. If it were a world completely controlled by such powerful beings, where they could refine and obliterate all living beings within the world with a single thought without any burden, then that would be truly hopeless. Even with the help of the truth, there would be nothing but helplessness. It's fortunate amidst misfortune. Li Fan thought this, and his heart gradually calmed down. The Tianquan spirit locking formation is equivalent to the nuclear deterrent that existed in my previous world. Before the Five Elders Association finds a way to break it, large-scale wars are unlikely to occur. There might only be occasional small-scale skirmishes. But it does confirm the disappearance of the heavenly venerate. It's hard to say what the future holds. Li Fan summoned the truth interface. Biological age, 884-899. As the saying goes, you can see further from a higher vantage point. In the past, I could only live for a maximum of 50 years before being forced to return to truth. 50 years of foresight was enough for ordinary people. But in this unpredictable Xuanwang realm, it's not enough. Perhaps in a certain life, I could try doing nothing and just observe the changes in the Xuanwang realm. With the passage of time, I might find more valuable information. With his thoughts sorted, to avoid suspicion, Li Fan took out the jade token given to him by the guide Bingyin and resumed his tour of the Museum of Divine Treasures. In fact, at this point in his current life, Li Fan could have simply returned to truth. However, the Museum of Divine Treasures was a significant location for the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, and it was not easy to visit. Since he was here, it wouldn't hurt to expand his knowledge. Li Fan had been very interested in the head of the first cultivator infected by the immortal mortal miasma, located in the center of the museum. According to the guide Bingyin, the Museum of Divine Treasures was divided into several areas based on the nature of the exhibits. The area Li Fan was currently in was the first area that all cultivators visiting the museum had to see. The Golden Age. What is this? Li Fan asked, intrigued, as he looked at the giant ball of light floating before him. The ball of light was composed of several areas displaying different scenes. The images flashed at an incredibly fast pace, only allowing one to vaguely make out the fleeting glimpses within. Not only were there buildings of various styles, but also many figures flashing through them. However, it was clear that the different areas had distinct landscape styles. This is the age, Bingyin explained dutifully to Li Fan. It's a concrete manifestation of various periods in the history of the Xuanwang realm, derived from a Tao integration stone as its core. This desolate wasteland, covered in ruins, is the former Wasteland Age. This area, filled with blood and killing intent, is the Great Darkness Age. Here, where many figures flash by, is the Great Plague Age. It seems to be simulating the period of the Great Migration, when cultivators forcibly relocated ordinary people. As Bing Yin spoke, the areas of the age that were mentioned would enlarge, allowing Li Fan to vaguely see the details changing rapidly within. Dao Integration Stone. Li Fan stared at the ball of light for a while, then asked, what exactly is the so-called Golden Age? Bing Yin smiled. The Dao Integration Stone is a peculiar object from the ancient Taiyan sect, with the ability to derive heavenly secrets and predict the future. The results it derives are indistinguishable from reality, extremely illusory and nearly real. Perhaps for us outsiders, the various different time periods simulated within the age are simply illusory existences. But for the countless living beings within, everything they experience is undeniably real. And when we project a strand of our divine sense, or even a portion of our nascent soul into it, we can personally experience these events that once truly occurred in history. Bing Yin first explained the background of the age. Before continuing, we once conducted an experiment with 1 million blank nascent souls that had their memories erased. We sent them into different periods, simulating for 500 years, and then tallied the final results, ranking them. And our age, the age controlled by the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, undeniably ranks first. Whether it's the survival rate of cultivators or the overall cultivation level of cultivators, it surpasses all other periods. The name Golden Age is well deserved, Bing Yin said proudly. Chapter 411. You're not convinced? Bing Yin asked, looking at Li Fan's expression. He was used to this kind of reaction. Li Fan didn't answer. Bing Yin pointed towards the orb of light ahead, and the shifting scenery spread out, revealing a part of the azure crystal within. A beam of blue light shone upon Li Fan under the shimmering light and shadows. You can try to send a sliver of your divine sense into it, and you'll see for yourself. Bing Yin said confidently. Li Fan pondered for a moment, his eyes flashing, and then he split off a thread of his divine sense. The moment it touched the blue light, the beam retracted. Dizziness came over him, and Li Fan closed his eyes. The next moment, his divine sense abruptly returned. Li Fan suddenly opened his eyes, slightly stunned. Sensing the memories his divine sense brought back, Li Fan couldn't help but feel speechless. He was born in the open black lens bracket Great Plague era close black lens bracket, an ordinary Foundation establishment cultivator who was just a loose cultivator. He had merely gone to the market to buy materials for alchemy, but he was accidentally infected by the immortal mortal miasma. At first, his body was weak, and he felt dizzy and lightheaded. He thought it was a problem with his cultivation technique, so he took pills and forced himself into seclusion to practice diligently. But after a night, when he woke up from seclusion, he had lost all his cultivation, transforming from a respected Foundation establishment cultivator into a powerless mortal. He couldn't accept this drastic change, and his body was becoming weaker and weaker. Under the double blow, he died. Survival time, 7 days. The initial immortal mortal miasma was quite terrifying. Li Fan slightly frowned, recalling his brief life. Then he looked at Bing Yin, the commentator. I want to try again. Bing Yin smiled, not surprised at all. He pinched a hand seal, summoning the blue beam again. This time, Li Fan was born in the open black lens bracket wasteland era close black lens bracket. His original body was a nascent soul cultivator who had survived the brutal battles of the Great Dark Era. His hands were stained with blood, and he never trusted anyone. He was a lone wolf in the wasteland, a solitary cultivator. After Li Fan took over, during a solitary exploration of ruins, he endured countless hardships and finally obtained a Dao integration technique. So he began to secretly search for information about the spirit of heaven and earth, trying to break through to the Dao integration realm. Unfortunately, despite being extremely cautious, he somehow leaked the news. He was ambushed by several cultivators in the wild and died a bitter death. Survival time, 3 months. Li Fan regained his senses and carefully considered these 2 encounters. Then he said to Bing Yin, "Can I choose to start from scratch with a blank identity?" Bing Yin seemed to understand what Li Fan was thinking and smiled wryly. He lightly pointed, and the blue beam shot towards Li Fan again. This time, he was born before the Great Tribulation descended, in the Golden Age of cultivation. Sects stood tall, nascent souls roamed the earth, and Dao integration cultivators were as common as dirt. Li Fan was born in a small mountain village within the territory of the Red Flame sect, and through the once in 5 years, Ascension Grand Assembly, he became an outer disciple of the Red Flame sect. He worked diligently for 2 years, finally successfully entering the chi refining stage. He was about to be promoted to an inner disciple, truly stepping onto the path of cultivation. But over a dispute for a spiritual vein, the Red Flame sect in the Nine Suns Manor erupted in a great war. Although he was extremely reluctant, he had no choice. Li Fan, as cannon fodder, went to the battlefield. He lasted less than 2 days before he was tragically killed in battle. Survival time, 15.5 years. Could it be that you intentionally increased the probability of various misfortunes? Li Fan looked at Bin Yin with suspicion. Bin Yin shook his head. People say the immortal path is good, but they don't know that beneath the feet of an ordinary cultivator in the ancient times, lay the corpses of countless failures. I see you still have doubts. Well, let me convince you. Bin Yin's expression turned slightly serious. He pinched a hand seal, making the azure crystal within the orb of light more exposed. The crystal emitted a diamond-shaped blue pattern that came before Li Fan. Please split off a larger portion of your divine sense and try again. Bin Yin reminded him. Li Fan nodded. His divine sense touched it, and in an instant, the world spun. His consciousness was split into 100 parts, each thrown into different areas of open black lens bracket time close black lens bracket, to experience different lives. In the Great Plague era, he barely survived the immortal mortal miasma. But he then indulged in his anger and massacred mortals, causing the immortal mortal miasma in his body to relapse. He lost his cultivation and was stoned to death by the mortals who came for revenge. In the Great Dark Era, he killed all the cultivators who practiced the same technique as him, becoming the sole surviving puppet master. He originally planned to hide in a secluded cave in the deep mountains, waiting for the Great Tribulation to pass. But he was accidentally caught in a battle between two powerful beings passing by, and so he died a senseless death. In the era of the new laws being first transmitted, he was one of the first fortunate cultivators to hear the Heavenly Venerate's teachings. Originally, as a loose cultivator, his cultivation was extremely difficult, but after changing to the new laws, his cultivation progressed by leaps and bounds. He thought that from then on, the immortal path would be smooth sailing, but suddenly a group of people came knocking. They shouted, "Heretic," and without a word, they killed him. Even in an unknown era, there was a kind of existence called the open black lens bracket immortal spirit pagoda close black lens bracket. The immortal spirit pagodas were scattered throughout every corner of the world, releasing pure spiritual energy day and night. In that period, the concentration of spiritual energy in the world was even stronger than the Tianquan mirror within the current world after the opening of spirit awakening. Even more enviable was that any cultivation technique, as long as you wanted it, could be searched and viewed through the immortal spirit pagoda. Without any restrictions. If you encountered something you didn't understand in the cultivation technique, you could ask the immortal spirit within the pagoda for clarification. Or you could ask other cultivators who practiced the same technique. It was truly a paradise for cultivators. But, perhaps because it was something they had since birth and were accustomed to, the humans who lived in that era were not very enthusiastic about cultivation. Because in that highly developed society, no matter how high your cultivation was, you had to abide by the rules set by the supreme beings. Even if you were a completely non-cultivating mortal, your basic rights would be respected. Living in such a spiritually abundant environment, all sorts of heavenly treasures and earthly treasures were readily available. Lifespans were extremely long, with no end in sight. What kind of desires could not be fulfilled? Over time, a sense of emptiness began to occupy and erode their souls. After Li Fan was born, he indulged in pleasure for 500 years, did nothing for 500 years, gradually became lost for 500 years, and fell into despair for 500 years. In the end, after living for more than 2,000 years, he laughed and ended his own life. Of the 100+ portions of his divine sense, other than the open black lens bracket cultivation paradise close black lens bracket, the longest was only 43 years. The average survival time was only half a year. The highest cultivation level reached was the early golden core stage, while the lowest didn't even step onto the path of cultivation before dying. 100 different cultivation lives played out in Li Fan's mind. When he gradually recovered, all the scenes slowly disappeared. He vaguely saw a blurry figure standing before him, softly saying, "Remember, it's not the 10,000 Immortals Alliance that needs you. It's you who need the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. This era is the best era." Without a doubt, all the images shattered like broken glass, scattering like stars towards various parts of his sea of consciousness. At that moment, a blue light in the center lit up, The starlight seemed to be drawn, changing direction and flying towards the azure crystal. Li Fan suddenly opened his eyes. Chapter 412. How do you feel? The voice of the tour guide, Bing Yin, echoed in Li Fan's ears. Li Fan nodded slightly in response. A glorious age, indeed. These words were partly a response to avoid suspicion, but also a genuine sentiment. Indeed, if one were to simply consider the act of living, the cultivators under the rule of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and the Five Elders Association lived far easier lives than the majority of cultivators throughout history. Even the difficulty of obtaining a suitable cultivation technique was not much more challenging than that of a lone cultivator in the ancient era. Though joining the 10,000 Immortals Alliance meant becoming a slave for life, at least, as long as they didn't do anything stupid, these caged horses could live a long time, and that was no problem. In other periods of the Xuanwang realm's history, those short-lived cultivators who wanted to become slaves might not even have been qualified. As for whether life itself was precious or freedom was more important, that was another eternal and serious question. Li Fan had no intention of dwelling on this. What he cared about was the 100 fragments of divine consciousness that had just been washed by the age, and were about to dissipate in his sea of consciousness. However, they were absorbed by the Tao crystal formed by his cultivation of the Tao integration unification secret technique. Those things that he had experienced in the age, but whose details had quickly become blurry after the experience was over, slowly became clear again. In the blue Tao crystal, there were faint outlines of independent scenes slowly taking shape. It looked somewhat similar to the age. What is this? Li Fan's heart trembled slightly. The shadowy figure I vaguely saw after the age experience should not have been an illusion. It seems like a method to implant brainwashing thoughts into the minds of all the cultivators who observe it. But I have my own Tao crystal, which not only immunizes me from this brainwashing but also. While continuing to tour the Museum of Divine Treasures under Bing Yin's guidance, Li Fan divided his attention to observe the changes in his own Tao crystal. Perhaps because all Tao crystals in the world originated from the initial Mother Tao crystal, they were of the same origin. The Tao crystal in Li Fan's sea of consciousness spontaneously absorbed all the scattered divine consciousness. It was also actively reconstructing the worlds that Li Fan had derived from his memory, based on the age imprint contained within the divine consciousness memory. Unfortunately, it seemed that due to the insufficient quality of Li Fan's Tao crystal and its limited computing power, when Li Fan tried to browse these worlds carefully, he discovered that they were currently only empty shells. The images were not continuous, but rather, they developed in jumps and jolts. The scope was also limited to a corner of the world that he had touched upon in his memory. Beyond that, it was a distorted and broken mirror image. Li Fan observed for a while and discovered that these worlds were slowly expanding in both time and space dimensions, albeit at an almost imperceptible rate, due to the limitations of his derivation ability. If the Tao crystal was only like this, even if Li Fan reincarnated 100 times, he might not make any substantial progress. But Li Fan had not forgotten that there was a fixed Tao crystal in Yin Yin's tomb. With each reincarnation, he could absorb it, and the Tao crystal in his mind would become even stronger. At that time, perhaps I can recreate the age myself. What's the point of that? Li Fan suddenly thought of something and his eyes flashed. Senior Bing Yin, I suddenly have a question. You just said that you once invested millions of blank souls into the age for experimentation. So, are there still real souls existing in the age that is currently running? He asked the tour guide. Naturally, there are. Bing Yin seemed reluctant to talk about this matter, only giving a simple reply. Li Fan pondered for a moment, then suddenly asked, you said that so many souls, constantly undergoing the age cleansing. Has anyone ever been aware that the world they are in is illusory and not real? After all, no matter how extremely realistic, there must be some difference from the real world, right? Bing Yin suddenly looked at Li Fan, glanced around, and lowered his voice. When I took over from the previous Bing Yin, he told me an anecdote. About 39 years ago, the age stopped running for a while. The entire Museum of Divine Treasures was closed during that time, and no one was allowed to enter or leave. Everyone was confused at the time, but later, there was a rumor that one of the million souls in the age mysteriously disappeared. We searched the entire Museum of Divine Treasures, but we never found it. The matter was never resolved. As for whether it really escaped or disappeared due to a malfunction, Bing Yin stopped there, not saying anything further. Li Fan nodded slowly. As long as something was possible, then with a large enough sample size, it could be considered inevitable. A million souls, constantly reincarnating and repeating. There would always be a lucky one who would discover the truth of the world they were in. Li Fan didn't find it strange. He had just confirmed one thing from Bing Yin. The age might not actually be used for brainwashing. It was used to select and cultivate true geniuses. A person's ultimate achievement cannot be solely judged by their talent. Destiny, temperament, determination, etc., all play a role. Often, some so-called geniuses die prematurely before they can grow up. On the other hand, those who are seemingly unremarkable might go further. In the real world, cultivating cultivators requires a lot of resources, and there is also the risk of the cultivator dying unexpectedly, resulting in all the initial investment going down the drain. However, in the age, there is no need to worry about this at all. In fact, selecting through the age might even be more effective. Indeed, the Great Dark Age, the Wasteland Age, and other darkest periods in the history of the Xuanwang realm were incredibly dangerous, with extremely high mortality rates. But conversely, if a soul could achieve something during this period, making a great achievement and changing history, it would prove their extraordinary nature. Li Fan believed that in the long years of the ages operation, there should be no shortage of such individuals. Picking them out, then giving them new bodies, applying brainwashing and absolute loyalty binding spells, and cultivating them into absolutely loyal dogs and enforcers of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. The strength of these cultivators was frightening to think about. At the headquarters of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and during the construction of the Tianshuan Soul Locking Array, Li Fan often saw some cultivators in black robes, unsure of which organization they belonged to in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. They were often expressionless, but the dangerous aura they inadvertently exuded and the bloodlust they couldn't hide always made Li Fan feel a chill in his heart. Li Fan guessed that these people were most likely cultivated through the age. This method is brilliant. As for me, perhaps when my Tao crystal reaches sufficient quality, I can use the past history to hone myself. As the saying goes, heroes create the times. But times also create heroes. Li Fan didn't think he was particularly outstanding. He was just an ordinary person who relied on the truth, ability to struggle for survival in the dangerous Xuanwang realm. Based on his experiences as a grand tutor in the Great Zan dynasty over several lifetimes and the lessons he had learned, he could perhaps handle himself when dealing with cultivators at the nascent soul stage and below. But when facing those old monsters who had survived from the ancient calamities and lived to this day, he might be a little overwhelmed and still inexperienced. More importantly, in front of these true powerhouses, he might not even have the opportunity to use the truth. To contend with them, besides cultivation, mental strength and experience were also crucial. By constantly experiencing the fragments of history in his mind, which mimic the age, he could perhaps make up for his shortcomings in this area. The Museum of Divine Treasures housed countless treasures. Under Bing Yin's guidance, Li Fan skimmed through the collections of the Xuanwang realm. In addition to the Glorious Age area, the museum had several other areas. Heroes of Glory primarily displayed items related to cultivators who had left their mark on the history of the Xuanwang realm. Mountain of Corpses, Sea of Blood, it was originally just an ordinary iron blade. After the Great Calamity arrived, its owner carried this weapon and slaughtered countless cultivators. The blood stained the blade crimson, and the spirit, even after thousands of years, remained undissipated. After countless killings, its owner survived. But ironically, this weapon was found in the stomach of a subterranean beast. Its owner was only left with his bones, clutching the Mountain of Corpses, Sea of Blood, in death, full of resentment. Banner of 10,000 Heads, a magic weapon that emitted a foul odor. Forged from 10,000 heads. These heads all belong to the same sect, the Soul Sealing sect. The creator of the Banner of 10,000 Heads was also from the Soul Sealing sect. When the Great Calamity arrived, he slaughtered all his fellow sect members and forged them into a magic weapon, an act of extreme cruelty. Unfortunately, such a person ultimately did not survive the Great Dark Age. This magic weapon became someone else's spoils of war. It was passed down for 1,000 years and eventually ended up in the hands of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. The Shifting Sands of Time area showcased the various terrain changes that had occurred in the Xuanwang realm over thousands of years. Li Fan was astonished. The kind of changes in mountains and seas like the Kong Yun Sea were commonplace. The heavenly river fell to the earth, mountains split open to create deep valleys. Even two states merged together in the blink of an eye. Li Fan couldn't help but feel that he was a bit narrow-minded. The clash of 10,000 techniques area displayed various cultivation techniques that had appeared in the history of the Xuanwang realm. Of course, only the relevant introductions were available, not the specific content of the techniques. Even so, Li Fan was captivated and couldn't tear himself away. Li Fan was immersed in it, unable to extricate himself. He lost track of time. As these astronomical numbers of objects from thousands of years ago appeared before him, the image of the Xuanwang realm gradually became vivid in his mind. It was no longer an empty concept but was imbued with the thickness of history. Slowly, he finally reached the central area of the Museum of Divine Treasures. The most eye-catching thing was a large empty space in the center. Apart from a human skull, there was nothing else. Bing Yin pointed at the skull and said, "This is the skull of the legendary first cultivator who was infected with the immortal mortal miasma. I don't know what's so precious about it, but the curator specifically designated that it should be placed." What's wrong with you? Bing Yin looked at Li Fan beside him with some surprise. He saw Li Fan suddenly close his eyes, as if he was in great pain, his whole body trembling violently. Beads of sweat kept dripping from his body. "Are you all right?" Seeing Li Fan's condition worsen, Bing Yin couldn't help but feel uneasy. Li Fan managed to force a smile, shaking his head slightly to indicate that he was fine. But he couldn't bring himself to open his bloodshot eyes. Discoverable absorbable item, Eternal Remnant. Absorb. Discoverable absorbable item, Eternal Remnant. Absorb, 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 The truths, prompts echoed incessantly in Li Fan's mind, as if they were out of control. The sound grew louder and louder, almost completely consuming his mind. He felt an indescribable hunger that was destroying his sanity. He had experienced this hunger when he saw the eternal remnant of Tianyang Zhenren. But now, the intensity of this desire was 100, 1,000 times stronger than what he had felt when facing Tianyang's eternal remnant. Chapter 413. Hurry and devour this eternal remnant, then truth, run. To be placed in the center of the Museum of Divine Treasures, this skull must be extraordinary. Quickly devour its remnant, you will surely uncover the secrets it holds. Act quickly, take it and leave, no one can stop you. Amidst truth's increasingly urgent urging, thoughts arose one after another, surging within Li Fan's mind. They whispered in his ear, constantly tempting him. For a moment, Li Fan was truly on the verge of succumbing, about to act. But ultimately, with immense willpower, he forcibly suppressed this urge. He recalled the scene when he absorbed Tianyang Zhenren's eternal remnant. First, he felt the surrounding space becoming somewhat illusory. Then, Tianyang's skeletal remains were decomposed into a brilliant white light, gradually absorbed by him. His mind was jolted violently, and he lost consciousness. After seemingly experiencing Tianyang's long life firsthand, truth's prompt finally arrived. Finally, the eternal remnant was fully absorbed. Based on his experiences, Li Fan quickly made his judgment. Absorbing an eternal remnant would cause a considerable commotion. Not only would it result in the disappearance of the remnant's host, but the white light representing the eternal remnant would also precisely mark Li Fan, the culprit, as the one who absorbed it. The absorption of an eternal remnant was not instantaneous, but required a certain amount of time. Moreover, during this process, he might temporarily lose consciousness due to the impact of the remnant's owner's lingering imprint. Realizing these points, Li Fan made a swift decision. He couldn't absorb this skull's eternal remnant. If he recklessly attempted to absorb it, it would be tantamount to seeking death. Don't let the empty space around the skull fool you, making it seem completely undefended. But where was this place? The headquarters of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, the Museum of Divine Treasures, where countless treasures were collected. The most central area of the museum. Could there be no hidden defenses here? That was simply ludicrous. Li Fan was certain that if he were swayed by greed and foolishly absorbed the eternal remnant, the next moment he would be caught in a web of countless traps and restrictions, and then apprehended for study. Perhaps, there was a slim possibility that this skull was truly unguarded. But Li Fan wouldn't gamble, because if he failed, it would mean eternal ruin. And this eternal remnant, according to Truth's previous hints, could be repeatedly used after each restart, once Li Fan found its carrier again. Its essence was no different from the Tao transformation stone in Yixing's tomb, both were repeatable items. What completely dispelled Li Fan's thoughts of absorption was that the eternal remnant couldn't be bound to truth. After acquiring it, truth couldn't bring it back. Taking such a high risk would inevitably be a futile endeavor. After analyzing the known information, Li Fan should have completely abandoned the idea of absorbing this eternal remnant with a rational assessment. But its allure to truth was so strong. The high walls of reason were simply no match for it. The Xuanwang heart refinement mantra spun frantically, Li Fan desperately suppressing the surging desire. So, he requested that guide Bing Yin take him to rest, away from the skull. Bing Yin nodded in understanding, even kindly offering to support Li Fan. To disguise his abnormality and distract himself, Li Fan took the initiative to start a conversation. Senior Bing Yin, you mentioned earlier that this skull was specifically placed in the central location by the curator of the museum. Yes, it's quite strange. There are countless treasures in the museum, but it's unknown why the curator favors this one so much, Bing Yin replied. It seems that the curator might be able to sense the remnant contained within it, Li Fan mused. He casually asked, I wonder which senior from the 10,000 Immortals Alliance is the curator. I don't seem to have heard of them before. Bing Yin smiled, it's normal that you don't know. The curator is a reclusive figure, always keeping a low profile. Even as guides find it difficult to meet him. But if we were to rank by seniority, I doubt there are many in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance who would dare say they are above the curator. Bing Yin said with a hint of pride. Oh, Li Fan couldn't help but be curious. Bing Yin lowered his voice, the curator has been in existence since the distant ancient times, when the human race was not yet flourishing. That was a long time ago, before the rise of all things. Almost everything in the world is within his purview. He is considered to be omniscient and omnipresent. Bing Yin's admiration was evident. Li Fan found the other's words familiar. He is a symbol of longevity and wisdom. We revere him as Emperor San, the immortal sage. Bing Yin said slowly. Li Fan's expression shifted slightly, he thought to himself. Emperor San, a mythical beast. Bing Yin, however, didn't notice Li Fan's change, continuing to extol the virtues of the old curator, how learned and wise he was. After they arrived at the rest room, he was still somewhat reluctant to stop. But seeing Li Fan's poor physical condition, he wisely refrained. Rest assured and relax here. The Museum of Divine Treasures is vast, you won't be able to see it all in a short time. This is a dedicated resting place for visitors, don't worry about being disturbed. Bing Yin gave his instructions and, seeing Li Fan gradually recover, left behind the control jade token and departed. Li Fan manipulated the jade token, activating the restriction to completely seal the rest room. Deep within the secret chamber, the strange skull also disappeared from his perception, his trembling body finally calming down. It felt like the aftermath of a great battle, Li Fan felt his body drained. His already aging body was now even worse. Eternal remnant, Li Fan, now calm, pondered the reason behind truth's unusual behavior. Humans feel hungry because they need to eat to replenish the energy necessary for survival. But truth actually had a desire to eat. This could only mean that something useful to truth could be obtained from the eternal remnant. Let's set aside the skull in the Museum of Divine Treasures for now. What in Tianyang Zhenren's remnant would truth need? Special. Eternal Remnant Tianyang Usable Times, 1. Li Fan looked at the information on truth's panel and made a decision. He took out materials from his storage ring and set up a ritual to enter the fallen immortal realm, using it as a diversion. Then, Li Fan consumed the last use of the eternal remnant, activating truth's mimicry function. After a bout of dizziness, a voice rang in Li Fan's ears. Tianyang, it's time for your medicine, the voice of his master, Guang Yangxi, echoed in Li Fan's ears. Chapter 414. After swallowing the medicine, Li Fan felt a little more energized. Using the medicinal effect as a springboard, he activated a trace of hidden power within his body. Pooh, he coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood, which startled his master, Guang Yangxi. At the same time, the creation forge art began to circulate. Guang Yangxi hurriedly went back to prepare more medicinal herbs for Li Fan. Li Fan, taking advantage of this opportunity, carefully examined his physical condition. Recalling the relevant case records in the Heavenly Doctor's immortal scripture, he pondered countermeasures. His body was incredibly weak, and after only a short while, he felt dizzy and lightheaded. He had no choice but to clear his mind and rest. Once he regained a bit of strength, he continued to contemplate. This went on for 3 days. Li Fan, drawing on the heavenly doctor's immortal scripture, modified the prescription he had taken during the second stage of his Niwa imitation. After much persuasion, he finally convinced Guang Yangxi to change the medicine. The new prescription proved to be exceptionally effective. Coupled with the creation forge art continuously improving his physique, within 2 months, Li Fan was able to walk with difficulty. Little junior brother, you are truly amazing. The prescription actually worked. How did you know about it? His second senior brother, Ling Xiao, asked as he helped Li Fan to his feet. It just appeared in my mind. Li Fan said with wide eyes, filled with innocence. Little junior brother is extraordinary. Perhaps he is the hope for the revival of our body transformation Tao. Their third senior brother, Lian Chong, couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Li Fan chuckled foolishly. The first step has been successful. The key now is to become stronger than senior brother Si Xing within the next 6 years, before the arrival of the summoning immortal order. To replace him in the war and prevent him from witnessing the tragic sight of the body transformation Tao disciples dying one after another. This is the obsession of Tian Yang. Li Fan thought to himself. Senior brother Si Xing is at the golden core stage. To surpass him within 6 years, relying on conventional cultivation would be a fool's dream. I have to find another way. Li Fan's eyes flickered. One day, he privately approached his master, Guang Yangxi. Self-body transformation. Guang Yangxi's expression changed drastically when confronted with his junior disciple's question. Where did you hear that? Did Ling Xiao, that little rascal, start spreading rumors again? Guang Yangxi fumed, his beard bristling and his eyes narrowed. Master, I came up with it myself, Li Fan said earnestly. The body transformation Tao's cultivation technique, transforming into others at will, is extraordinary in its ability to utilize external objects. But I suddenly wondered, what exactly constitutes an external object? Senior brother's sword, second senior brother's brush, third senior brother's bell, these are all external objects. So, can this frail body of mine be considered an external object? Through continuous refinement with the technique, the transformed objects of my senior brothers become increasingly powerful. If I can treat my own body as a transformed object, wouldn't that mean I can change my physique? I won't be as weak as I am now. Li Fan stated each word clearly. Guang Yangxi's expression also shifted continuously. After a long silence, he sighed. Tian Yang, you are truly a genius. At such a young age, you have such insight. You are truly. Guang Yangxi stroked Tian Yang's head, his voice filled with a hint of relief. Having a disciple like you, our body transformation Tao will surely prosper. Indeed, cultivating the transforming into others at will technique can achieve self-body transformation. But Guang Yangxi's expression suddenly turned serious as he looked at Li Fan, his voice heavy. However, my disciple, you must never try it. Li Fan tilted his head up to look at his master, his young face filled with confusion. Why, master? Guang Yangxi's expression seemed to wander, as if lost in thought for a moment. Then, he explained to Li Fan, the most important aspect of transforming into others at will is unification of self and object. Self-body transformation, in theory, is indeed feasible. It's the most perfect choice of the technique. But, Guang Yangxi sighed, it's too difficult, too difficult. Compared to ordinary objects, the human body is incredibly complex. Objects can be continuously experimented with to achieve a higher degree of compatibility with the self. If mistakes occur during cultivation, only the transformed object is damaged. But with self-body transformation, you must constantly use your own physical body as the experimental ground. The slightest error will result in serious injury. Physical damage is one thing. The most terrifying aspect is the damage to the spirit. Guang Yangxi's eyes flashed with a hint of sadness. Once, I had a brilliant senior brother. His talent was unmatched, the highest I had ever seen. He was considered the first person of the body transformation Tao in 1,000 years, with great expectations placed on him by our master. However, he was arrogant and believed he could succeed in cultivating self-body transformation. He ignored everyone's advice and forcefully cultivated. The result, Guang Yangxi paused. Initially, he was just a bit erratic, and everyone was trying to heal him. But later, his madness worsened. He couldn't distinguish between reality and fantasy. One night, he went on a rampage. The number of casualties was countless. From that day forward, our body transformation Tao declined. Speaking of this, Guang Yangxi shook his head slightly. So, my dear disciple, remember this. You must never try it. Guang Yangxi warned with utmost seriousness. Li Fan nodded repeatedly. Yes, I understand, master. After bidding farewell to Guang Yangxi, Li Fan returned to his room. After much deliberation, Li Fan abandoned his plan to forcibly cultivate self-body transformation. Just like self-foundation establishment, this self-body transformation was not something ordinary people could achieve. Judging from Master Tian Yang's later situation, he also did not choose this path. Puppet. Recalling the nascent soul puppet from years later, Li Fan gradually formed a plan in his mind. The next day, Li Fan approached his senior brothers and told them he wanted a puppet. Don't worry, little junior brother. Leave it to me. Lately, I've been overflowing with inspiration, my penmanship is superb, and I've written several books. They are the pinnacle of my career, second senior brother Ling Xiao assured him, thumping his chest. I'll go to the market and sell them, then choose the most handsome puppet for you. A few days later, Li Fan got his wish and obtained a mechanical puppet. Ling Xiao beamed with pride. Little junior brother, this puppet is said to be at the golden core level. It took me a lot of effort to buy it from someone. Senior brother, you are amazing. Thank you, senior brother. Li Fan complimented him before grabbing the puppet and dashing off without a trace. Little junior brother's body seems to be recovering better and better. Ling Xiao remarked with a sigh. Inside his private chamber, Li Fan placed the puppet in front of him and cut a wound on his hand. He dripped his fresh blood onto the puppet. Simultaneously, he activated the transforming into others at will technique, refining the puppet while sensing the subtle changes occurring within it. Li Fan had abandoned the idea of self-body transformation. But he hadn't given up entirely. His plan could be seen as a form of self-body transformation under special circumstances. It was even more extreme. That is, to abandon this physical body and completely transform himself into a puppet. Just like the real Master Tian Yang did in history. However, Tian Yang later chose to absorb earth fire to refine and enhance the puppet. Li Fan's solution, however, was to become a puppet and then achieve self-body transformation. Undoubtedly, this was a self-destructive approach. The gap between a golden core puppet and the human body's limit was immeasurable. But for Li Fan, who desperately wanted to increase his combat strength, it was the best option. Cultivating self-body transformation with a puppet body significantly reduced the difficulty. First, the precision of a puppet was far less than that of the human body, making it easier to achieve unification of self and object. Second, there was no need to worry about self-injury. Repairing a puppet was much easier, as long as materials were plentiful. And once the puppet completed its self-body transformation, cultivation, the combat power it could unleash in the state of unification would be several times stronger than simply using the puppet as a transformed object. The first step is to shed my physical body and merge with the puppet. Li Fan's execution of this technique from transforming into others at will was exceptionally smooth. It must be because Tian Yang's body was a premature birth, and his soul and body were not very harmonious, Li Fan mused. Thus, Li Fan began his personal cultivation plan, concealing it from the other body transformation Tao disciples. This plan was too bizarre, even Guang Yangxi did not notice the changes happening to his junior disciple. He simply thought Li Fan was incredibly fond of the puppet Ling Xiao had bought for him, to the point of never leaving it behind. Time flew by. 6 years passed in the blink of an eye. The summoning Immortal bell rang, and the summoning Immortal order arrived. The 3 body transformation Tao disciples argued about who should go to answer the call. At that moment, Li Fan, along with his puppet, suddenly appeared before them. Senior brother Si Xing, senior brother Ling Xiao, senior brother Liancheng. I think I should go. Ling Xiao, Liancheng, and Si Xing were utterly dumbfounded as they looked at Li Fan with his serious expression. Little junior brother, what are you saying? This isn't a game, Ling Xiao began, but then he froze. Because the puppet standing behind Li Fan had spoken those words. Bang, bang, the puppet took a step forward, approaching the 3 senior brothers. Going to war is a matter of life and death. If someone has to go, it should be the strongest among us. Senior brothers, what do you think? Li Fan looked at senior brother Si Xing, Ling Xiao, and Liancheng, asking softly. Tianyong, you're being reckless. Guang Yangxi was the first to see the changes that had occurred to Li Fan. His face turned pale, and he wanted to step forward, but he stopped as if he had thought of something. His slightly trembling hands betrayed the turmoil within him. You knew this day would come? Guang Yangxi asked in a stammer. Li Fan smiled but did not answer. He looked at his senior brothers. Please, senior brothers, enlighten me. The three senior brothers gradually recovered from their shock. Looking at their junior brother's transformed puppet body, their eyes were filled with regret and sorrow. For a moment, they stood there speechless. It was senior brother Xing who finally took action. He summoned his own blade, thin as a cicada's wing and emerald green, and pointed it at Li Fan. Junior brother, this matter is best left to me. How can a senior brother let his junior brother go to his death? Li Fan's figure flickered, and he punched, landing beside his senior brother. Senior brother, don't underestimate me. Sensing the immense force of the blow, Xing's face changed slightly. His green blade danced, attempting to block Li Fan. But the blade, which was usually invincible, left no mark whatsoever on Li Fan's body. This puppet's body was not only extremely hard, it was also several times faster than an ordinary golden core cultivator. His movements were large and open, and various strange and unusual mechanisms shot out from different parts of his body. For a while, Xing could only dodge clumsily. Junior brother Tianyong, it seems you've put in a lot of effort. But even so, I cannot let you go in my place. Be careful. Xing eyebrows rose, and his figure turned into a stream of light, merging with the green blade. Zheng, the blade trembled slightly, emitting a clear chime. Then, the blade's body, like flowing water, extended forward and backward. Sword water heavenly heart, senior brother Xing's voice rang out from within the blade. The water-like sword energy arrived instantly. Upon striking Li Fan's puppet body, it did not dissipate like before. Instead, it reflected back like light. It flowed in the air for a moment, then instantly changed direction, attacking Li Fan from the other side. It was still deflected by Li Fan's hard body. It arched and returned in an instant. The flowing sword energy became increasingly faster, appearing like a massive water net slowly enveloping the bulky puppet in its center. Currently, Li Fan was only a puppet body, and most of his divine powers were unusable. Under Xing's relentless attack, Li Fan gradually fell into a disadvantage. Ancient cultivators are truly formidable, Li Fan thought to himself, his expression turning serious. The puppet let out a roar that shook the heavens, its body emitting a crimson glow. It vibrated and transformed, instantly changing from a humanoid form to a giant hand. It skillfully bypassed the sword energy blockade of the sword water heavenly heart, reaching above the water net. It expanded further. The shadow it cast enveloped all the water swords, then pressed down on them. This was the overturning heaven palm he had comprehended. Executed with the puppet's massive body, it had a sense of overwhelming power. Such divine power, senior brother Xing exclaimed in excitement. I have a move as well. Please enlighten me, junior brother. Heavenly will like water, formless and supreme. Sword name, heavenly form. The water swords flowing beneath the overturning heaven palm instantly vanished. But Li Fan felt a strange sense of danger. Swoosh. Invisible sword energy flashed. Before the giant hand could press down, a thin cut appeared on its back. Li Fan fixed his gaze on the surrounding space. But he couldn't find Xing, trace. Another sword cut emerged. Li Fan channeled his spiritual energy, attempting to heal his injury. However, he discovered that the sword cut seemed to have invisible sword energy attached to it, preventing the wound from healing. The sword cuts appeared faster and faster. In an instant, Li Fan's body was covered in wounds. Little junior brother, surrender. Senior brother Xing's voice echoed from all directions. But he remained invisible. Senior brother's divine powers are truly amazing. Li Fan sincerely praised him. But, Li Fan suddenly raised his voice. I have one more move. If senior brother can block it, I'll surrender immediately. Good, I'll be waiting, Xing replied. Li Fan suppressed his momentum. After a moment, he said to his second senior brother, Ling Xiao, senior brother Ling Xiao, please lend me your brush. Ling Xiao was initially stunned. Oh, all right. Then, a brush flew towards him, which Li Fan grasped. He poured his spiritual energy into it, and with a single stroke, he wrote in the air. It was the character, Luan, Chaos. The moment the character descended, Terrifying cracks suddenly appeared on Li Fan's body. He could no longer maintain the form of a giant hand and reverted back to his humanoid puppet form, falling to the ground. This kind of consumption, Li Fan was slightly horrified. The hard body made of special stones was disintegrating. Many parts were shattering directly. This was the divine power Li Fan had comprehended from the Chaos Stone in the maze. Its power far exceeded his expectations. The caster was suffering such terrible side effects. Not to mention senior brother Xing, who was directly facing the Chaos character. His heavenly form state retreated, and he emerged clumsily. But in the face of chaos, he was unable to move. His spiritual energy went berserk, beyond his control. His transformed object, the green blade, was also flying around like a headless chicken. Pooh! Xing's arm bent in an unnatural direction, and a look of horror flashed in his eyes. Because he realized that this change was about to happen all over his body. Enough! At that critical moment, Guang Yangxi finally intervened. His transformed object was a willow tree. The green willow stood in front of Xing, its branches wildly whipping around. After a long time, everything gradually calmed down. The willow tree disappeared, and the back of Guang Yangxi's hand, which was hidden behind his back, trembled slightly. Xing looked at Li Fan, who was also severely injured and lying on the ground, his eyes filled with a mixture of emotions. Yuan, junior brother, he said softly. Li Fan breathed a sigh of relief. Tianyang, that move you just. Guang Yangxi looked at his junior disciple, unable to finish his sentence. After a moment, he sighed and gave up asking. Never mind, I can see that you have a big secret. But you're willing to join our body transformation Dao, which is a blessing for our declining sect. Guang Yangxi, disheartened, waved his hand and left. Xing, for a while, didn't know what to say. Only second senior brother Ling Xiao was shouting and fussing, hurriedly treating Li Fan's wounds. A puppet body, as long as there were enough materials, could easily heal from even the most serious injuries. Ling Xiao went back to the market and returned shortly after, and Li Fan was healed. Under the gaze of Master Guang Yangxi and his 3 senior brothers, Li Fan, accompanied by the summoning immortal envoy who had come to urge him on, left the body transformation Dao. He set off for the battlefield. The surrounding scenery suddenly froze. Then, like shattered glass, it exploded. Turning into specks of light, they all poured into Li Fan's mind. Thousands of years ago, Tianyang True Man's memories, clear and vivid, surfaced. Including the transforming into others at will technique, the puppet-making methods, and even the earth-fire ascending Yuan formation, for refining and upgrading puppet levels, all of them were as if he had experienced them personally, firmly imprinted in his memory. But Li Fan had no time to examine these things at the moment. Because his mind was completely captured by the prompt from Truth. Though dead, still alive, true spirit undying. Transforming into objects, traversing the ages. The overhaul function has been unlocked. Chapter 415. Li Fan's heart pounded with excitement. After fulfilling the last wish of the Tianyang, not only had he gained a lot himself, but open black lens bracket truth close black lens bracket had also unlocked new functions. No wonder open black lens bracket truth close black lens bracket had felt a sense of hunger when he encountered the eternal remnant. Li Fan immediately began to carefully study this so-called open black lens bracket overhaul close black lens bracket. Moments later, his brow furrowed slightly. Consumes 100% of the overhaul charge progress, abandons the physical body's existence, and completely entrusts one's true spirit to an object. After becoming an object, one cannot retain autonomous consciousness, only a trace of open black lens bracket spirituality close black lens bracket will remain. Correspondingly, the duration of existence will be greatly enhanced. When the duration of existence reaches its limit, the open black lens bracket truth close black lens bracket function will automatically activate, returning to the previously set anchor point. Quote. What's the use of this? Li Fan was initially a little disappointed. However, after careful consideration, he vaguely understood the usage of open black lens bracket transformation close black lens bracket. The most basic use was that when one's lifespan was about to end and death was imminent, they could still use the method of body transformation to remain in the world and collect information. Although they might not be able to know the specific details of many events clearly, understanding the general trend of the world's affairs shouldn't be difficult as long as they entrusted the task to a reliable person. Moreover, according to open black lens bracket truth close black lens bracket S feedback, if Li Fan activated open black lens bracket overhaul close black lens bracket. Now, it could last for nearly 3,000 years. Even if the lifespan might be shortened due to damage to the transformed object, it was still enough to greatly enhance Li Fan's ability to see into the future. This would allow him to better plan for his next life. Those who could leave their mark on history for 1,000 years were definitely not ordinary people. They were true heroes. He would remember their names and invest in them when he returned. This was far more efficient than Li Fan's previous method of slowly gathering talented individuals within a single province, relying solely on his own contacts and hearsay. Li Fan was secretly excited. For example, I could use this to understand what will happen to the Xuanwang realm under the cover of the Tianxuan soul locking array. To be cautious, Li Fan once again confirmed the many details of open black lens bracket transformation close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket body transformation close black lens bracket and open black lens bracket void transformation close black lens bracket are powers of the same level. After body transformation, as long as one cannot resist the void transformation power of open black lens bracket truth close black lens bracket, then they cannot distinguish the trace of true spirit entrusted to the object. After body transformation, the overhaul charge progress will still increase automatically, and the upper limit will be increased to 1000%, greatly enhancing self-defense capabilities. Besides the duration of existence reaching its limit, when the transformed object encounters the danger of complete destruction, it will also trigger automatic truth return. Soon, Li Fan made a decision in his heart. The safety of this open black lens bracket overhaul close black lens bracket function was still guaranteed. Just right, my lifespan in this life is about to end, and with the identity of the Tianxuan soul locking array formation master, even if I can live a few more years, my freedom will be restricted. It's better to transform my body into an object and shed my mortal shell. Then I can quietly watch the world change. But before that, I need to choose the object of transformation and the person to entrust it to. Li Fan scanned his storage ring. His gaze stopped on a crystal clear disc. Open black lens bracket formation breaking disc close black lens bracket, specially made by the 10,000 Immortals Alliance's Formation Hall, a formation breaking artifact equipped for nascent soul and above formation masters. It was the reward for being in the top 100 during the final assessment at the Universal Branch Academy. However, I've been busy building the Tianxuan soul locking array all these years, so I haven't used this thing much. Compared to other things of unknown origin, this artifact from the 10,000 Immortals Alliance itself will definitely arouse less suspicion. Next, I need to consider how to deliver this formation-breaking disc to the designated person. Li Fan pondered in his secret room. Time slowly passed. During this time, Li Fan received messages from Wang Fusong, Qi Buyi, and even Ji Hongdao. They asked when he would come out of the Museum of Divine Treasures. They wanted him to go directly to the 10,000 Immortals Alliance's headquarters formation hall after coming out, as the reward for ranking second in the grand competition was ready. He could go and claim it any time. Besides that, the life-extending treasure had also been prepared, just waiting for him to come. Li Fan just sneered and didn't reply. He wasn't afraid of them coming to his door and forcibly taking him away. There was a region called open black lens bracket Xuanwang myriad images close black lens bracket. Inside the Museum of Divine Treasures. It preserved a sample of every living creature in the Xuanwang realm, frozen in ice. When Li Fan visited, he had vaguely guessed, thinking about the immortal ruins above the Xuanwang realm that devoured everything. This so-called open black lens bracket Museum of Divine Treasures close black lens bracket was more like a place to preserve the world's seed than a museum. If the Xuanwang realm really met its destruction one day, this place would probably bear the responsibility of preserving the civilization's seed, hoping to rebuild in the future. Later, he asked the tour guide Bing Yin, and sure enough, it was true. The Divine Treasures Museum had a very special status, and all disputes were prohibited within it. Even the Formation Hall didn't have the authority to come and forcibly take anyone away. As long as Li Fan stayed inside and didn't go out, Ji Hongdao and the others couldn't do anything to him. Before open black lens bracket overhaul close black lens bracket, Li Fan checked the situation on his clone's side. Han Yi was exploring the Tiandu ruins with him, full of hope. Not only did they find nothing, but they also encountered many inexplicable dangers along the way. Both of them were seriously injured and returned to Yuandao City to recuperate. On the way back, Han Yi kept looking at the clone Xiao Fan with suspicion, several times wanting to say something but stopping himself. Too bad, I thought I could gain something through this person's luck. Li Fan thought this, shaking his head slightly. Then he controlled his clone, returning alone to the Tiandu ruins he had explored before. He found a restriction and willingly sent himself to his death, ending the clone's life. With this, I can carry out my next plan. Li Fan's eyes flickered. As open black lens bracket overhaul close black lens bracket activated, a trace of true spirit entered the open black lens bracket formation breaking disk close black lens bracket in his storage ring. Li Fan's consciousness suddenly went black. At the same time, his aura quickly weakened. At the same time, He Zhenghao in Tianyan Province and Wang Fusong in Tianyu Province both received Li Fan's last message. A suicide note. Wang Fusong's face changed, full of disbelief. He hurriedly contacted Ji Hongdao. Half a day later, when Qi Buyi and Wang Fusong rushed over, they saw Li Fan's corpse. He just died like that. Wang Fusong was stunned. Qi Buyi looked serious and went forward to examine the body, nodding. The two looked at each other, speechless. I noticed he wasn't looking well before. He said he was fine and just needed to rest. But, tour guide Bing Yin shook his head and sighed. Wang Fusong transmitted his voice, what do we do now? The person is dead, what else can we do? Qi Buyi looked at him with displeasure and left with a flick of his sleeve. Chapter 416. This. Li Fan's bold words from his gamble in the abyss of roars seemed to still echo in everyone's ears. But this cultivator, who was brimming with ambition and seemed to have a powerful background, had died so suddenly. He only had time to leave behind an incomplete letter before he passed away. Thinking of this, Wang Fusong felt a wave of emotion, followed by a surge of confusion. This fellow doesn't seem like someone who would die so easily. His eyes narrowed as he approached Li Fan's body. He carefully examined it once more. A moment later. He's truly dead. Wang Fusong's face was complex. Good thing he's dead. It saves those above the trouble of figuring out what to do with him. His gaze fell upon the storage ring on Li Fan's hand, and recalling the contents of Li Fan's transmission, Wang Fusong couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. My cultivation journey has spanned a mere 100 years, and I have only met 2 or 3 true friends. He Junhao is one, Shui Mu is another, and Wang Fusong counts as half. Though my body now lies still, I leave behind 1,000,000 contribution points, a transformation longevity fruit, and some spirit stones and artifacts. Fellow Taoists may take them as you please. This little fellow's wealth is truly frightening. 1,000,000 contribution points is fine, but the transformation longevity fruit is truly a good thing. A flash of greed crossed Wang Fusong's eyes, and he entertained the thought of keeping it all for himself. At that moment, a commotion and cries of grief came from outside the secluded chamber. Brother Li Fan, how could you die so suddenly? How am I to repay the kindness you showed me all those years ago? A figure arrived beside Li Fan's corpse. After taking a moment to confirm, they lunged forward, embracing the body and wailing. This person was dressed in the attire of the garrison corps, and the other cultivator beside him was someone Wang Fusong also recognized. The garrison corps commander of Tianyan Province, Taoist Jing Zan. This person was a direct subordinate of the former commander, Lu Junyi. After Lu Junyi was promoted to the position of garrison corps general commander of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, this person also rose quickly through the ranks. Although his position was higher than Wang Fusong's, the garrison corps and the formation deployment hall were not under the same department. Wang Fusong had no fear of him. Out of courtesy, he bowed. Jing Zan nodded, gazing at Li Fan's body and letting out a sigh. With the garrison corps involved, Wang Fusong's selfish ambition of keeping Li Fan's inheritance for himself was dashed. According to procedure, the items within Li Fan's storage ring were inspected, and no abnormalities were found. The items were then divided equally between Wang Fusong and He Zhenghao. As for Shui Mu, Wang Fusong claimed that he had attempted to betray and flee to the Five Elders Association, but was caught and subsequently killed. Jing Zan investigated and found that this was indeed the case. He did not inquire further. 1,680,000 contribution points were Li Fan's life savings. He Zhenghao received a clean 1 million, while the remainder went to Wang Fusong. Correspondingly, the transformation longevity fruit belonged to Wang Fusong. The remaining spirit stones and artifacts were given to He Zhenghao. Except for a formation breaking disc, the rest were not of great value. Both Wang Fusong and He Zhenghao were satisfied with the division of the inheritance. After witnessing Li Fan's body being cremated, the two parted ways. Back in Tianyan province, He Zhenghao, who had become suddenly rich overnight, felt a mix of sadness and confusion. He recalled the contents of Li Fan's letter. There is something I have been keeping from you, fellow Taoist. In truth, I am not a cultivator from Yuandao province, but a mortal from a subworld. Back then, it was you, Taoist He, who helped me sneak out of the subworld. Hee, but I imagine you wouldn't care about those mortals from back then. Thinking about this, He Zhenghao couldn't help but blush. Over the years, he had smuggled thousands of subworld mortals through his hands. And with He Zhenghao's personality, how could he possibly care about what those mortals looked like? So, brother Li Fan and I actually had such a connection. No wonder he always took such good care of me. It all makes sense now. It's just a pity. Thinking about this, He Zhenghao couldn't help but lament and feel a deep sadness. After a while, he remembered Li Fan's final request. In Shailan province, there are descendants of my subworld kin. I hope you can take care of them. He Zhenghao looked at the inheritance he had just received and pondered for a moment. Then, he sighed and took out most of it. He took a leave of absence, disguised himself, and headed straight for Shailan province. Xiao Heng was extremely wary of this seemingly out-of-nowhere cultivator from the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. However, the spirit stones and artifacts they had brought were genuine. They also claimed to be acting on the behest of the deceased. After much deliberation, Xiao Heng assumed it was a legacy from the Skull Elder, so he accepted it. As for He Zhenghao, according to Li Fan's will, this group of offworlders had not only not joined the 10,000 Immortals Alliance but had also seemingly joined a mysterious organization. To avoid any connection to them, He Zhenghao simply delivered the inheritance and left in a hurry. Thus, in the year 41, Li Fan's transformed, formation-breaking disc successfully reached Xiao Heng through He Zhenghao. None of the offworlders were proficient in formations. They simply treated it as an ordinary formation-breaking artifact and left it in their storage rings. In the year 45, Han Wuyu came of age and successfully established his foundation. Xiao Heng gave Han Wuyu the formation-breaking disc and 2 other artifacts as gifts. Han Wuyu was very fond of the formation-breaking disc and kept it close by, nourishing it with his heartblood day and night. In the year 46, Han Wuyu and the formation-breaking disc established a strange connection. A flood of formation knowledge suddenly surged into his mind. After informing Xiao Heng about this, the offworlders investigated but couldn't find any reason for it. They simply instructed Han Wuyu to keep it safe. In the year 48, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance announced to the world that within 10 years, all cultivators within their territory who had not joined the alliance must join. Those who refused would face the consequences. The news sparked discontent among many independent cultivators. The offworlders, however, received a message from Shuofeng instructing them to cooperate. In the year 49, the thousand-faced demon lord attacked Shailan province. Although the soul-locking array quickly locked onto its target, it was still not captured. It rampaged for half a month, killing hundreds of cultivators before calmly withdrawing. In the year 50, Han Wuyu broke through to the mid-foundation establishment stage. In the year 51, a roar of rage, filled with resentment, suddenly echoed across the distant Yuandao province. Who dares? The reverberations continued for days. People were horrified to discover that the voice belonged to the long-deceased Blue Feather Immortal Venerable. 7 days later, the voice dissipated. Blue Feather Immortal Venerable never appeared again. In the year 53, Lingu Chong of the Medicine King sect was persuaded by Xiao Heng to join Rebirth Immortal. Lingu Chong and Xiao Heng, along with the others, discovered a former site of the Tianji sect in the 100 Stones cave on the outskirts of Shailan province. They obtained several cultivation techniques from it. In the year 55, an unnatural phenomenon occurred. Green threads densely covered the sky. It lasted for 3 months before disappearing. People were terrified but did not understand what it meant. Chapter 417, Year 57, Han Wuyu broke through to the foundation establishment stage, late stage. Year 58, the 10-year period had arrived. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance dispatched a group of black-clad cultivators to begin purging all unallied loose cultivators across the land. Loose cultivators rose up in resistance, but they crumbled at the first touch. While the loose cultivators were indeed not very strong, the battle prowess displayed by the black-clad cultivators was truly formidable. Although their individual strengths were not high, most were at the nascent soul stage, they were incredibly terrifying in actual combat. They could simultaneously engage in combat against 10 or more cultivators of the same realm without falling behind. Their attacks were ruthless, leaving no survivors. No matter where the loose cultivators hid, the black-clad cultivators could always precisely pinpoint their location, leaving them with nowhere to escape. For a time, blood flowed endlessly across the land. After barely repelling a group of black-clad cultivators, the off-worlders gathered and decided to join the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. After practicing the secret technique, one hand covers the sky, obtained from the Tianji sect's ruins, and through the efforts of Shuo Feng, they successfully passed the Jade Heart testing platform's test. They temporarily lay dormant within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Year 60, the war concluded. Within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance's territories, there were no longer any loose cultivators. Year 61, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance issued a decree, maintaining the Tianquan soul locking array was everyone's responsibility. All cultivators within the alliance were required to practice a technique called mending the heavens. While this technique did not increase one's cultivation base, it generated corresponding heavenly gifts within the Tianquan mirror based on the progress achieved. Similar to contribution points, heavenly gifts could be exchanged for various techniques and resources. Despite some grumbling, most cultivators reluctantly followed the requirements and began practicing mending the heavens. Year 63, Han Wuyu broke through to the Golden Core stage. In the same year, during a secluded cultivation session, he comprehended the Heavenly Doctor Immortal Scripture from the Breaking Formation Jade Plate. Year 65, rumors spread. It seemed as if a barrier had appeared in the world, preventing cultivators from fully absorbing the cultivation base they gained. A small portion of it disappeared, its whereabouts unknown. The rumors were quickly suppressed. The off-worlders held a secret meeting, exchanging and verifying information, confirming the truth of the rumors. Xiao Heng instructed everyone not to spread the word. The day after the meeting, the off-worlders were warned by a group of black-clad cultivators. Year 69, the Five Elders Association suddenly launched a surprise attack on the Eight Directions province. This time, they seemed to have discovered a method to temporarily shield themselves from the Tianquan soul-locking array's detection. They swept through the province like a storm, conquering most of its territory within a single day. Just then, thousands upon thousands of densely packed black-clad cultivators descended, engaging in a bloody battle with the Five Elders Association. The Five Elders Association's elite force had a significant advantage in overall strength over the black-clad cultivators. However, the black-clad cultivators fought with reckless abandon, their numbers seemingly endless. As one fell, another quickly took their place. In the end, the Five Elders Association was forced to retreat, suffering heavy casualties. After this battle, cultivators across the land learned the identity of the black-clad cultivators. Sky Warlocks. Year 71, more information about the Sky Warlocks was leaked. Unlike the current cultivation system, Sky Warlocks did not need to cultivate. All they needed was to gain recognition from the Tianquan soul-locking array. They could then leverage its authority, harnessing the energy enveloped by the soul-locking array to engage in combat. Currently, the highest-level Sky Warlocks were comparable in strength to nascent soul stage cultivators. Year 72, a strange incident shocked the entire world. Golden Core stage cultivator Tang Fangsheng, while clashing with another cultivator, accidentally killed over 100 ordinary people in Red Dragon City. Among them, an ordinary person named Shiqing miraculously survived. However, his entire family perished in the tragedy. Shiqing was consumed by grief and despair. In his desperation, he prayed to the heavens. For unknown reasons, he gained recognition from the Tianquan soul-locking array, becoming a Sky Warlock. In an instant, he achieved the combat strength of a nascent soul stage cultivator and ruthlessly slaughtered his enemy, Tang Fangsheng. Cultivators who had toiled for hundreds of years were no match for an ordinary person's simple prayer. Cultivators across the land were filled with fear and anxiety. Year 75, Sky Warlocks with the power of a soul transformation stage cultivator emerged. At the same time, cultivators discovered that their cultivation progress was becoming increasingly slow. Year 80, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance uncovered a major plot to destroy the Tianquan soul-locking array. Over 100 cultivators were executed. Year 85, Han Wuyu comprehended a technique called Crucible of 10,000 Forms, From the Heavenly Doctor Immortal Scripture. He had thoroughly read the Heavenly Doctor Immortal Scripture, studying the countless different creatures documented within it. He vaguely noticed a commonality among all living beings. The world was like a crucible, melting down what was originally one being into the 10,000 forms of the world. By cultivating this technique, he could achieve free transformation among these 10,000 forms. As long as he mastered the physiological structure, he could transform into the appearance of plants, animals, or any other creature. Ordinary cultivators would find it difficult to discern the truth. Han Wuyu was overjoyed, breaking through to the golden core stage, middle stage. Year 86, the number of sky warlocks steadily increased. Year 90, a natural phenomenon occurred. Blood rained down across all the provinces, and cries of anguish echoed throughout the heavens. It continued for months. Year 91, a sky warlock with the power of Tao integration intervened, suppressing those involved in a plot to overturn the soul-locking array. Year 101, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance established a clear quota for cultivators practicing, mending the heavens. Year 139, Han Wuyu received a secret message from Xiao Heng. After arriving at an underground base 30,000 zhang deep, Han Wuyu learned that in recent years, Rebirth Immortals had gathered a large number of like-minded cultivators under the banner of overthrowing the Tianquan soul-locking array. At the same time, Han Wuyu learned even more shocking news. Over the past century, countless cultivators had mysteriously disappeared. They were neither seen nor heard from again. Plenty of evidence pointed to the 10,000 Immortals Alliance as the culprit. Han Wuyu learned an upgraded version of the "one hand covers the sky" technique, which could interfere with the Tianquan soul-locking array's surveillance within a certain range. Year 150, news emerged of an impending merger between the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and the Five Elders Association. The world was stunned. Year 159, the Xuanwang realm was unified. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance and the Five Elders Association were collectively known as the Heavenly Alliance. A group of sky warlocks began constructing the Tianquan soul-locking array within the former territories of the Five Elders Association. Year 160, Han Wuyu broke through to the Golden Core stage, late stage. Year 163, during the construction of the soul-locking array, the Rebirth Immortals attempted to assassinate the array masters and obtain the soul-locking array's structural blueprint. But their attempt failed, and 78 of them were killed. Afterwards, the Heavenly Alliance launched a brutal purge. Many innocent cultivators were killed. The Rebirth Immortals went into complete hiding. Year 171, the construction of the soul-locking array was completed throughout the entire Xuanwang realm. From that point onwards, the sky permanently took on a green hue. The Xuanwang realm entered a period of relative peace that lasted nearly a century. The number of sky warlocks continued to grow. However, cultivators' cultivation speed slowed down drastically. Their overall numbers also steadily declined each year. Beneath the apparent tranquility of the Xuanwang realm, undercurrents swirled. Year 260, Han Wuyu broke through to the nascent soul stage. Year 263, a declaration to cultivators of the world spread throughout the Xuanwang realm overnight. It marked the beginning of a war between cultivators and the soul-locking array. Chapter 418. In a manifesto spanning 10,000 words, cultivator Ji Yu Xinghan revealed to the world. Using formations to replace heaven, stealing its authority. Like a shadow that follows, monitoring the world. Draining cultivation, to nourish Tianquan. The masses are like cattle and horses, the Tao has no path forward. The manifesto enumerated the evils of the spirit-locking formation, pointing out that the core of the Tianquan soul-locking formation was actually the former 10,000 Immortals Alliance's treasure, the Tianquan Mirror. The Tianquan Mirror, seeking to attain Tao transcendence, was using all the cultivators in the world as sacrifices. Ji Yu Xinghan called upon all cultivators to unite, shatter the spirit-locking formation, and restore the Xuanwang realm to its former glory. Although the Heavenly Alliance immediately issued a denial, refuting the claims and issuing a heavenly execution order against Ji Yu Xinghan. But over the past 100 years, the strange changes that had occurred in the world since the Tianquan soul-locking formation became widespread were undeniable. The Heavenly Alliance's denials could not silence the voices of the cultivators. For a time, cultivators were stirred with anger. However, the Heavenly Alliance had ruled the Xuanwang realm for thousands of years, its authority still strong. Those who responded to Ji Yuxinghan's call and dared to truly stand up in resistance were few and far between. They were like scattered stars, quickly suppressed by the Heavenly Alliance's dispatched sky warlocks. But Ji Yuxinghan was never caught. His efforts were not entirely in vain. The seeds of doubt had been sown. Cultivators became more wary of the Tianquan mirror and the Tianquan soul-locking formation. Cultivators across the Xuanwang realm began to secretly research methods to avoid the Tianquan mirror's surveillance. The Heavenly Alliance itself began to experience internal divisions. News spread of Heavenly Alliance officials privately expressing dissatisfaction with the spirit-locking formation, only to be subsequently arrested and severely punished as a warning to others. In year 268, an image was projected onto the green sky of the Xuanwang realm. Although it was quickly blocked, preventing any further viewing, the brief moment it appeared before everyone was enough to completely ignite a wave of resistance among the cultivators. A towering wall, its location unknown, piercing the clouds. Countless cultivators were suppressed and slumbered within its walls. On the wall, only faces with tightly closed eyes and eerie smiles were visible. Fellow Taoists, this is the eternal immortal wall. All the cultivators who have gone missing over the past 100 years have been imprisoned here by the Heavenly Alliance. The voiceover, slightly urgent, abruptly ended. It was only a fleeting glimpse, but the countless faces on the eternal immortal wall were enough to send chills down the spines of all surviving cultivators. To be trapped in an illusion, eternally suppressed, was no different from death. The Heavenly Alliance's actions were truly appalling, exceeding the limits of what cultivators could tolerate. For a time, cries to overthrow the Heavenly Alliance and shatter the spirit-locking formation echoed throughout the Xuanwang realm. Within the Heavenly Alliance, the opposition faction, which had been dormant since the spirit-locking formation became widespread, also launched their attack. Warfare instantly engulfed the Xuanwang realm. Xiao Heng's Rebirth Immortal was one of the many resistance organizations. Han Wuyu, along with Xiao Heng, Su Xiaomei, and other former companions from the other realms, reunited and began their war against the Heavenly Alliance. The combined strength of almost all cultivators in the world was formidable. But the number of Heavenly Alliance sky warlocks far exceeded everyone's expectations. The Great War continued for 3 full years. The cultivators suffered constant losses, while the number of sky warlocks never seemed to decrease. If the sky warlocks had not focused on capturing cultivators alive and held back their full strength, the cultivators would have been defeated long ago. The situation was dire, with no sign of victory. The cultivators gradually retreated. The war slowly devolved into a one-sided pursuit and capture. In year 273, the sky warlocks discovered the Rebirth Immortal's base. Zhang Haobo and Su Xiaomei, in order to cover the retreat of their companions, fought valiantly and died. But they could not prevent the destruction of the Rebirth Immortal. At the crucial moment, Su Chengyu broke through his cultivation limitations, perishing alongside the sky warlocks who came to capture him. Xiao Heng and Han Wuyu escaped with their lives. In year 274, Xiao Heng, gravely injured, died. Before his death, he entrusted the Rebirth Immortal legacy to Han Wuyu. Han Wuyu accepted, tears in his eyes. Relying on his one hand covers the sky technique and Crucible of 10,000 forms, cultivation method, Han Wuyu evaded capture, constantly on the move. In year 290, few cultivators remained in the world. The Heavenly Alliance's pursuit slowly relaxed. In year 304, the Heavenly Alliance issued a general amnesty. Any cultivator who was willing to return to the Heavenly Alliance and practice the mending the heavens, according to their assigned quota every year would be forgiven for all past transgressions. Cultivators began returning to the Heavenly Alliance from the wilderness. In year 315, it was discovered that the cultivators who had returned previously were not in any danger, and more cultivators chose to return. In year 324, the Heavenly Alliance commenced an unclear construction project in various provinces. Immense golden obelisks rose from the ground, standing tall in the center of each province. In year 369, Han Wuyu broke through to the nascent soul late stage. Under the alias Hibuyu, he returned to the Heavenly Alliance and went into hiding again. Han Wuyu discovered that the Heavenly Alliance was now led by sky warlocks. The Heavenly Alliance continued to provide cultivation resources to those who surrendered. The price, however, was the requirement to practice the mending the heavens, even more. In year 370, Han Wuyu temporarily halted his own cultivation and began to immerse himself in studying the mending the heavens. In year 393, due to his consistent and focused practice of the mending the heavens for 20 years, contributing a large amount of celestial dew points, Han Wuyu was rewarded by the Heavenly Alliance. He was granted the rank of 4th grade Sky Warlock and appointed as a Sky official, responsible for managing and supervising the mending heaven work of over 1,000 cultivators. In year 404, across the Xuanwang realm, massive beams of light erupted from the tops of the obelisks, shooting straight towards the heavens. The earth and the sky trembled. The obelisk's energy burst lasted for 7 days. In year 412, after nearly 40 years of research, Han Wuyu, combining the knowledge of formations he had gleaned from the breaking formation disk, deciphered the function of the mending the heavens. The Tianquan soul-locking formation, stealing heaven's authority, was attempting to usurp its place. But the core of the spirit-locking formation, the Tianquan mirror, had overestimated its abilities. It could only barely maintain the normal operation of all the spirit-locking formations while in an overloaded state. Therefore, it needed external assistance to share some of the burden. Only cultivators could establish a connection with heaven and earth. This was why the Heavenly Alliance required cultivators to practice the mending the heavens, while Sky Warlocks could not. Han Wuyu vaguely saw a glimmer of hope in overthrowing the spirit-locking formation. But he also had some concerns. Because if the Tianquan mirror achieved transcendence and completed its transformation, it would no longer need cultivators to practice the mending the heavens. Without making a fuss, Han Wuyu kept this matter to himself, continuing to lie in wait, biding his time. In year 434, Han Wuyu was assigned, along with a team of Sky Warlocks, to investigate a strange incident in Tianpan province. During casual conversation, Han Wuyu learned that strange occurrences had been spreading in the world in recent years. In year 459, the obelisks once again emitted beams of light. Roaring sounds continuously echoed from the heavens. Opening parenthesis closing parenthesis. Chapter 419. In the year 468, a piece of news shook the Xuanwang realm. The white mist barrier, which served as the dividing line between the provinces, inexplicably began to expand outwards. The Heavenly Alliance sent Sky Warlocks to investigate the matter. In year 469, the white mist barrier expansion ended. The Sky Warlocks, however, investigated to no avail. In year 490, a group of cultivators came out of the white mist. Dressed in the garb of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance of that year, they were clearly dead, but could still move freely. And they did not know that they were dead. Since they did not know about the establishment of the Heavenly Alliance, when the Sky Warlocks who had blocked off the scene arrived, these already dead cultivators of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance clashed violently with them. In the end, it was only with the help of a team of level 6, or Harmonious Dao Battle Force, Sky Warlocks that they were forcibly taken away. In year 524, Han Wuyu broke through to the Soul Transformation realm. In the year of 539, the golden obelisk of the Xuanwang realm erupted for the 3rd time. The heavens and earth still shook, just much more slightly than the previous 2 times. In year 580, Han Wuyu received a secret invitation to meet him at a secret stronghold in Tianyu province. The cautious Han Wuyu did not choose to go. In the year 592, Han Wuyu learns the news that the Tianquan soul-locking formation as a whole has failed for about a tea time within the Zhengchang continent. The Heavenly Alliance had once again issued the Heavenly Execution Order, offering a reward for the capture of the cultivator named Lu Yihang. In the year 595, Han Wuyu once again received an invitation. Along with the invitation was a small, round stone disc. According to the letter, the original disc was called the Doom Stone, and after being stimulated and carried on the body, it had the effect of shielding the perception of the Tianquan soul-locking formation. Han Wuyu thought about it again and again, and eventually changed and went to the appointment. This time, the location of the gathering was changed to a hidden valley in the territory of Tianyan State. A cultivator introduced himself to Han Wuyu. They called themselves the Overwhelming Heaven Society, one of the rebel organizations that had called on the world's cultivators to fight the Heavenly Alliance to the death in the first place. Ever since the great defeat of the cultivators, they had hidden underground and waited for the time to move. For hundreds of years, they have been silently absorbing suitable candidates. Ji Yu Xinghan, who released the letter of declaration to cultivators of the world back then, Lan Yuchong, who risked his life to expose the existence of the Eternal Immortal Wall, and Lu Yihang, who managed to cause the spirit-locking formation to fail not long ago, were all members of the Overwhelming Heaven Society. In the Overwhelming Heaven Society, the most elite forces of the only remaining cultivators in the world were gathered. Although their numbers were small, geniuses came out in endless succession. They had also researched many methods over the years on how to fight against the Tianquan soul-locking formation. The Doom Stone was one of the results. It was created from the secondary body of the Tianquan mirror, the Doom Destruction Stone Disc. In the course of years and years of research, the Overwhelming Heaven Society had discovered a possible blind spot in the spirit-locking formation. That was the secondary body of the Tianquan mirror. As sub-bodies created by chance by the Tianquan mirror, they all maintained a certain characteristic of the Tianquan mirror to a greater or lesser extent. It was because of the existence of these characteristics that, to a certain extent, would cause the spirit-locking formation to misjudge, treating it as a part of itself, thus neglecting to monitor it. The number of secondary bodies of the Tianquan mirror was already scarce, and the Overwhelming Heaven Society had sacrificed numerous cultivators to find such a piece of the doom-destroying stone plate. In addition to the Doom Stone that could shield the spirit-locking formation, the Overwhelming Heaven Society also had the existence of a great killing weapon called the Stellar Ruining Arrow. Lu Yihang was able to temporarily disable the spirit-locking formation this time, relying on this Stellar Ruining Arrow. The source of the materials used to make it was the various anomalies that were occurring more and more frequently throughout the Xuanwang realm. The existence of this anomalies was like a virus that infected heaven and earth. Since the anomalies could affect heaven and earth, the spirit-locking formation now took the place of heaven, and the anomalies could naturally affect the spirit-locking formation as well. After understanding the many matters within the Overwhelming Heaven Society, Han Wuyu raised his doubts. Why did they give such an exhaustive account of the hidden secrets of the society on their first meeting? Wasn't he afraid that he, Han Wuyu, would report to the Heavenly Alliance? The other party smiled and introduced Han Wuyu to someone. It was none other than one of the original Rebirth Immortal Medicine King sect's Lingu Chong. It turned out that when the Rebirth Immortals suffered a catastrophe, the survivors each fled for their lives. In the subsequent big hunt, Lingu Chong was not captured by virtue of the Medicine King's true cauldron. Since then, he had been hibernating in the wilderness, and later joined the Overwhelming Heaven Society by chance. It was also by relying on the blessing of the Medicine King's true cauldron and the many resources within it that the Overwhelming Heaven Society was able to develop under the blockade of the Heavenly Alliance. As time passed, more than 300 years passed, and some of the Medicine King sect disciples sleeping in the Medicine King's true cauldron were also awakened by him one after another. For example, that Lu Yihang was the righteous son of the former Medicine King sect leader Lu Rushan. The meeting of the deceased caused Han Wuyu to recall the scene of the tragic death of the people from the realm. With reddened eyes, he formally joined the Overwhelming Heaven Society. After only half a day in the stronghold, Han Wuyu returned to the Heavenly Alliance. In the year 603, the Golden Obelisk began its fourth eruption. This time, it lasted even longer than the previous three combined. Above the dome of the sky, channels of green lines ran across the sky, resembling a giant net that enveloped the beings of the Xuanwang realm. Since then, the cultivators of the world privately called the Tianquan soul-locking formation with the Tianquan mirror at its core the Zon net. In the year 610, Han Wuyu received news from the Overwhelming Heaven Society that within the territory of Zuyu province, a giant mountain had risen out of the ground, destroying all of the original landforms. In this drastic change of heaven and earth, there were no survivors in Zuyu Prefecture. The province's Zon net seemed to have been equally affected. The stronghold of the Overwhelming Heaven Society has since moved to Zuyu. In year 690, during an assembly, Han Wuyu learned that the number of Celestial Ruining Arrow, the Overwhelming Heaven Society had manufactured in recent years had amounted to as many as 3,000. Unfortunately, the Zon net was protected by peripheral formations, so with such a number of instigating heavenly arrows alone, it was feared that they still wouldn't be able to injure the core of the Zon net. It is still necessary to wait patiently again. Han Wuyu pondered. In 698 year, Han Wuyu comprehended the blueprints of many formations from the formation-breaking disc. In Anchor 710, Han Wuyu secretly met with Lingu Chong as well as Lu Yihang to show them the formation blueprints. In year 711, Han Wuyu received a transmission from the Overwhelming Heaven Society, confirming that this was the original formation structure of the Zon net, and excitedly asked where the blueprints came from. Han Wuyu gazed at the formation-breaking disc in the secret room for a long time and remained silent. He then used a secret method to seal the broken formation disc. In the year 934, a stray child accidentally picked up the formation-breaking jade disc from the ruins. Thinking that he had picked up some kind of treasure, he was overjoyed and brought it with him day and night. Then the resonance was created. The sky no longer appeared green, but gray. In the year 935, the surviving people of the land passed down legends from 100 years ago. The earth trembles and the sky shows cracks. Above the firmament, the figures of the gods fighting were reflected. World-destroying lightning punishments continued to descend, turning large swaths of land into nothingness. After a long time, a pair of giant hands tore open the firmament. The dust settled and the winds calmed down. But the infighting among the gods angered the great Father God. The world has been forsaken. Ornate buildings are in ruins. The gods that flew high in the sky are no more. The world is falling into disrepair. In the year 936, the wandering child was killed during a hunt. The broken formation jade disc lies quietly in the wasteland. Only occasionally did a curious beast come by to check it out. In year 1032, there were no longer any wild beasts appearing. In 1573 year, the sky is dark and the earth is silent. In 2078, the world is dead. In the year 3024, the long-lost sunlight shone on the broken jade disc. In the year 3036, it was really activated. Document outline. Chapter 402, Chapter 403, Chapter 404, Chapter 405, Chapter 406, Chapter 407, Chapter 408, Chapter 411, Chapter 412, Chapter 413, Chapter 415, Chapter 416, Chapter 417, Chapter 418,